Chapter 408. Ancto, look, this is the latest aluminum tungsten alloy we've developed. It's mixed with a little moonweed flower dew. Although it's not as hard as pure steel, it's a lot stronger in terms of corrosion resistance and toughness. More importantly, you can try it. Encado picked up a silver-white alloy ingot with a hint of dark brown in it. The dwarf Porto immediately asked excitedly, "How is it? Is it very light?" "Well, it is indeed very light." Encado felt the alloy ingot in his hand and nodded involuntarily. It seems that the proportion of aluminum in it should be relatively high. I know tungsten very well. It is much heavier than iron. What is heavy? It is called density. Porto threw a contemptuous look at Encado. Didn't you read the latest industrial material basic standards written by the president? To describe this thing, you have to call it density. Don't always say light and heavy. It sounds unprofessional. Encado couldn't help but roll his eyes. Porto had just asked him if it was light, but now he accused him of answering with heavy. However, Encado also read the Industrial Material Basic Standards published by the president half a month ago. He knew that Porto was right, so he was too lazy to refute. Moreover, Porto was sent to lead some dwarves to serve as technical guide for this non-ferrous metal smelting factory. He had also used the rich non-ferrous metal types of this non-ferrous metal vein for material research for several months. Now that there were results, it was understandable that he was excited. Well, the density of this aluminum tungsten alloy is lower than that of ordinary steel, and its corrosion resistance and toughness are also stronger than that of ordinary steel. What are the shortcomings? Encado thought about it and asked, "If you want to talk about the shortcomings, it is that it is not hard enough." Porto sighed and shook his head. "You see, if I have an aluminum tungsten alloy pipe as thick as my finger, I can bend it with just a little bit. It is much worse than a pure steel pipe." Ancto glanced at Porto's finger, which was as thick as two of his thumbs, as he thought. If that's the case, this aluminum tungsten alloy is a bit weaker than common pure steel in terms of impact resistance. But thinking about the astonishing innate strength of the dwarves, Encado felt that it wasn't a big deal. After lowering his head to seriously think for a bit, Encado said, "Based on this material is very suitable for making the outer shell and part of the support frame for household magic machines. As long as it didn't bear too much weight, it should be able to be used. There are many household magic machines that our company produces that can't be replaced with plastic, and it's a bit wasteful to use steel, so this is perfect." "Hee, that's what we're trying to do." Porto cracked a smile and said, "All right, I found that this thing is very good for making windows. You see, this thing is much sturdier than wood. It's also resistant to corrosion and can last much longer." "Oh, according to what you said, not only can it be used for windows, there are many places in the house that can use it." Encado thought about it before saying with a nod, "I suddenly feel that this aluminum tungsten alloy has many uses. At least it can be used in many places in normal houses. All right, I'll go back and tell Sir Chairman that I think he could discuss this with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce will definitely need this thing. I'll leave this matter to you. I don't care." Porto waved his hand and suddenly looked around. He took a step closer to Encado and said in a low voice with a mysterious look, "Other than this aluminum tungsten alloy, there's another new research that I need you to bring back for Sir Chairman to see." Seeing the expression on Porto's face, Encado instantly understood. He didn't say anything and just asked with his eyes. After looking around, Porto waved his hand towards Ancto and signaled him to follow him into an inner room of the laboratory of the non-ferrous metal smelting plant. "Come, what do you think of this thing?" After entering the inner room, Porto closed the door and took out a piece of black metal and handed it to Ancto. Encado reached out to take it and felt his hands sink down. He quickly held it with both hands to stabilize it. "It's this heavy. It's this dense?" Antoka looked at the black metal in his hand in surprise, not knowing what material it was made of. "What kind of alloy is this?" "Most of it is lead, a small part is tungsten, and there is also a small amount of iron and a small amount of zinc." Porto replied, "This thing is very dense, but because of this, it is very hard. It is also very resistant to pressure, and its toughness isn't bad. Isn't the company planning on upgrading the production magic machines, agricultural magic machines, and construction magic machines? Sir Chairman and Canby have been worried about not being able to find enough materials to withstand the pressure, so I feel that this is quite suitable. That isn't an important problem. Sir Chairman said that as long as we increase the purity of the steel, we will definitely be able to meet the requirements. But if the performance of this thing is even better, that would be even better. Encanto weighed the piece of metal in his hand and thought for a bit before asking, the key question is, what is the cost of this thing? Cost? Porto was surprised before revealing an awkward smile. That is hard to say. Anyway, there are quite a few materials needed for this thing in this vein. I think that since there are this many here, the other places shouldn't be that bad. That is hard to say. Encanto shook his head and said with a sigh, no wonder Sir Chairman always places importance on mineral resources. It would be good if this non-ferrous metal vein belonged to our company. I don't think it's that hard. With us dwarves here, is there a need to fear that we can't find a mine? Porto said. So what if we can find one? Could it be that you can go to the Camlet Empire or the Malar Empire to mine? Encanto rolled his eyes at Porto. Porto was instantly speechless. The two of them discussed the recent research results of the lab. After Encanto told Porto about some of the company's recent developments, he left the lab and went to the factory. He found the person in charge of the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce and gave him the orders for various non-ferrous metals. This was the reason why Encanto was feeling emotional earlier. Even if this non-ferrous metal smelting factory was a joint venture between New Flyer and the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, with New Flyer having a part of the shares, because it wasn't fully owned by New Flyer, even if the non-ferrous metals were smelted by this non-ferrous metal vein, if New Flyer needed them, they still had to purchase them through normal channels. Because of this process, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had many restrictions. For example, the Magic Machine Development Center and the Academy of Magic wanted to obtain some pure copper to experiment with. But because copper could be used to make copper coins, it was under special control in the Lampari Kingdom. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce wouldn't consider selling it to New Flyer at all. Other than copper, the non-ferrous metal smelting factory couldn't completely follow the needs of New Flyer. Take the Household Magic Machine Department of New Flyer that Encanto was in charge of. Because the latest versions of household magic machines needed to be upgraded, there was a high demand for aluminum and zinc. But the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce insisted on smelting pure copper, so the production of aluminum and zinc wasn't high. The non-ferrous metal smelting factory near the Valar tribe could completely follow the needs of New Flyer. That was because the main non-ferrous metals in that vein were aluminum and lead. There wasn't a single trace of zinc. Therefore, if they wanted zinc, they could only obtain it from there. So even Encanto, who didn't care that much about this matter, couldn't help hoping that New Flyer could control a few more non-ferrous metal veins, so they wouldn't be restricted by others. But the situation in the Lampari Kingdom was rather complicated, so it wasn't easy for New Flyer to participate here. If they wanted to obtain a few more veins, it was impossible for them in the short term. Encanto and the person in charge of the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce talked for a long time before finally agreeing to Encanto's request to supervise the mining of more zinc, or, as for the actual effects, only the heavens would know. A day later, Encanto watched as Chairman Pompey led the First and Carriage Company's transport magic cars loaded with 17 tons of non-ferrous metals onto the road to Banna City before heading to the Fit Chamber of Commerce. New Flyer's Household Magic Machine Department General Manager? The Fit Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Cherno looked at the name Encanto, gave him before looking at Encanto, who didn't seem to be over 30 years old. If it wasn't for an old acquaintance like Sarkozy testifying, he wouldn't have believed that this young man was the manager of a large company like New Flyer. That, General Manager Encanto, may I ask why you've come to our Fit Chamber of Commerce? Chairman Cherno looked at Encanto with a vigilant and doubtful look. This person was the representative of New Flyer, coming to a small magic machine company that produced magic fans and magic kettles. It made people feel that he had bad intentions. Encanto revealed a faint smile. Chairman Cherno, I remember that your Fit Chamber of Commerce bought the magic fan and magic kettle technology from our company in March and June of last year, spending 63,000 and 72,000 gold coins, right? Chairman Cherno narrowed his eyes, and the vigilance in his eyes, as he looked at Encado, became even stronger. This fellow had clearly made preparations ahead of time, so he definitely didn't come with good intentions. That's right, General Manager Encado. What do you want to say by mentioning this? Chairman Cherno coldly asked back. Encado's smile didn't change. After pausing, he continued. Chairman Cherno, when I was visiting your factory, I found that your company's magic fan and magic kettle production lines weren't perfect and were missing several models. Since Chairman Cherno is willing to spend this much money to buy the magic fan and magic kettle technology, are you willing to spend a bit more money to improve the production line and the related technology? Chairman Cherno was stunned. Hearing the meaning in Encado's words, could it be that New Flyer was willing to give them the magic fan and magic kettle technology? Thinking of this possibility, Chairman Cherno's heart couldn't stop beating fast. Chapter 409. So E, is your company planning on giving up on the magic fan and magic kettle business? 70 asked Sue E in a curious voice. Releasing all the technology is completely different from giving it up, dear Lord City Lord. Sue E said with a faint smile. Even if we have the same technology, I'm certain that the magic fans and magic kettles of the other companies can't compare to our New Flyer in terms of quality. Do you believe me? Why wouldn't I believe you? 70 rolled her eyes at Sue. Do you think that I don't know anything about magic machines? Other than the technology, there are many other factors that determine the quality of magic machines. For example, the materials, the process. Don't forget, you taught me this before. Sue E laughed. Being able to have a Lord City Lord who is this familiar with the production of magic machines, you really are lucky. Since it's like this, dear Lord City Lord, you should agree to the plan for the industrial zone outside the city, right? 70 nodded with a faint smile. Of course. With such a good suggestion, if I don't accept it, wouldn't I be scolded by many people? But Sue E, there is a problem with your plan. Oh, what problem? Sue E looked at the plan on the table in surprise. He thought that this plan was something that he, Kennard, and the other chairman of the large companies had discussed, so it should have been considered very carefully. How could there be a problem? Look, 70 pointed at the map of Banna City that came with the draft and said, there's no problem with expanding the industrial area around the Santa Manor. But have you noticed that according to your plan, the place that needs to be built will reach the banks of the Sandy River, which will be very close to the Falling Star Manor? So what? Sue, he had a confused look. You men. 70 had a look of disappointment as she shook her head with a sigh. Sue E, you're only thinking about your own convenience, but you're forgetting about Steel? Steel is pregnant now. Aren't you afraid that building an industrial zone near the Starfall Manor will disturb her? Sue E looked at 70 in surprise. His mind was filled with how to develop Banna City with this new industrial zone, but he had completely forgotten about his personal matters. He never thought that the Lord City Lord 70 would consider this for him. Thank you for your concern. Sue pondered for a moment and nodded. That's right, this is my negligence. You are right. If the construction is carried out too close to the Starfall Manor, it will seriously affect Steel. Since that's the case, why don't we make some changes here? Sue E drew 2 new lines on the map, removing the part of the newly built industrial zone that was closest to the Falling Star Manor and moving it to a place that was slightly off. Like this, even if the industrial zone was built, it would be over 2 kilometers away from the Falling Star Manor, so it wouldn't affect the environment of the manor that much. However, 70 looked at Sue Yi's new map and drew another circle on the map. She actually moved the industrial zone even further away, being 5 kilometers away from the Falling Star Manor. Sue Yi was speechless. He felt that moving the industrial zone 2 kilometers away was very generous, but he never thought that 70 would be even more ruthless, increasing the distance by 2 times. 70, if we do this, aren't we abusing our position too much? Sue E couldn't help saying. 70 looked at him and gave a soft snort. This is the decision of the Lord City Lord. Do you have any objections? Sui, of course, could only shake his head. 70 looked over the map again and changed some details before giving it to Sui. What do you think now? Sui looked it over and gave a bitter laugh. If I show this plan to Chairman Serene and the others, they will definitely scold me. 70 glared at him. Why would they scold you? You can just tell them that you don't want to affect steel. Would they dare have any objections? If they do, tell them to come find me. Seeing 70's rare, tough appearance, Sui couldn't help finding it a bit funny. He never thought that the normally gentle and kind 70 would actually be a feminist. She wasn't ambiguous in this aspect at all. All right, I believe that even if Chairman Serene and the others have objections, they definitely won't say anything. Sui said with a shrug. Since you've already confirmed it, then the new Banta City Magic Machine Industrial Zone has been officially decided. As for the specific road layout, you need to discuss it with Chairman Cruz. Their Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce already has rich experience in this aspect. I believe that you will be satisfied. I also believe that. 70 nodded. 70 nodded. At least the Banta City renovation project is going very smoothly, so everyone is praising the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Sui laughed. It's good that you're satisfied. The two discussed the details of the industrial zone for a bit. When Sui was prepared to leave, 70 suddenly called out to him. I don't have anything to do today. I'll go see Steel. Sui was surprised. He looked at 70, and after confirming that she wasn't joking, he agreed after thinking about it. After the two left the City Lord's Manor, 70 looked at the luxurious horse carriage in the City Lord's Manor and slightly knit her brows. She asked Sui, you told me last time that your company would develop magic horse carriages for family use and that it would be very comfortable, even better than riding in the medium-sized magic passenger cars. Is that true? Of course it's true. Sui thought about the luxurious cars running through the streets of Earth and gave a certain nod. I dare guarantee that we will develop this product and it will be welcomed by everyone. Then, when will it be developed? I really want to sit and watch right now. 70 asked. Sui shook his head with a bitter smile. I don't dare confirm this. Right now, the main task of the development center is to improve the transport magic car and the medium-sized magic passenger car. The other tasks can only be delayed for now. These two are rather important. 70 nodded before looking in the direction of the Fersen Carriage Company. 70 nodded. I have to admit, you weren't exaggerating when you said that the appearance of the magic car could change the continent. If it wasn't for the magic car, our Banta City's goods wouldn't be able to be transported to all parts of the kingdom so easily. Moreover, if we go back to Anvilmar City from Banta City, we can even make it back in time for dinner if we set off in the morning. If I want to go back, I can go back at any time. Actually, the speed of the magic car is far from what I want. In theory, Anvilmar City is only 200 kilometers away from Banta City. So if the magic car in my mind was developed, it would only take 3 to 4 hours to get there. Like this, if you set off after breakfast, you could even make it back to Anvilmar City in time for lunch. Sui said with a faint smile. It's that fast? 70 was a bit doubtful. 70 was a bit doubtful. 60 kilometers an hour isn't considered fast. Sui shook his head. He thought that if the F1 race car that Cantona mentioned could be developed, that would be a monster that could reach speeds of 3 to 400 kilometers per hour. A trivial 200 kilometers would take less than an hour to complete. Of course, the F1 race car had a high requirement for the track, so it definitely couldn't run that fast on normal roads. To increase the speed of the magic car, other than increasing the magic car itself, it was necessary to increase the speed of the roads. However, this was thinking a little too far. In the entire Lampari Kingdom, only Banta City could be considered to have roads on every main road. Sui's request for roads in every village wasn't even met yet, so there was no need to mention the other cities. In the entire signs, only the Lampari Kingdom had over 2,000 kilometers of roads. Of the other countries, only the Principality of Constantine had over 200 kilometers of roads. As for the roads in the Kingdom of Ruhr, because the Kingdom of Ruhr and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce couldn't reach an agreement on some details, progress was slow and it was still far from being finished. Of course, what Sui was looking forward to the most was the magic airship that Evita was working hard to develop. Compared to the magic car, the magic airship had more prospects. Moreover, although the speed of the magic airship in the early stages couldn't compare to the magic car, the magic airship wasn't limited by the terrain and could travel in different directions. Just based on this, it could save quite a bit of time compared to the magic car. The most important thing was that because of the amazing effects of wind magic, the most difficult problem for the planes on Earth was very simple for the magic airship. After solving this most important problem, the next step was to develop the power system, which would greatly speed up the process. 4 days ago, when Sue-E went to the Academy of Magic to find Evita, Evita had reported to Sue-E that her newly developed magic airship could already fly 10 kilograms in the air. With this trend, they would be able to fly people sooner or later. Sue-E, what are you thinking? 70 waved her hand in front of Sue-E, pulling him back from his thoughts. Oh, I was thinking about what kind of personal magic sedan you would like. Sue-E came back to his senses and said with a smile, "It can be customized?" 70's eyes lit up. "Of course. All right, I like small ones. It doesn't look like the current medium-sized magic passenger cars that are square and bulky. Then I like simple and elegant colors, and it's best if there are some patterns. Come, let's talk in the carriage." 70 looked at the horse carriage beside her and said with a sigh, "You've piqued my interest. Now I'm not interested in riding horse carriages at all. But we can't just walk over, right?" Sue-E smiled and made an inviting gesture, getting into the horse carriage that had been prepared for a long time with 70. Chapter 410. 70's arrival made the Falling Star Manor quite busy. Sue-E didn't have a habit of hiring servants, so up to this point, there were only Liz and Linda, the 2 female slaves from the Principality of Constantine, doing the housework. Vivian was in school most of the time, so she didn't meddle much. Now that they had to take care of 70, Liz and Linda had to put in all their effort to take care of her, so naturally they were very busy. Seeing the 2 female slaves not stop, and even having Sue-E take care of Steele, 70 couldn't help shaking her head. She said to Steele, "I know that Sue-E doesn't like to treat people as slaves, but it shouldn't be a problem to hire a few more servants, right? Now that you're pregnant, why don't you find a few more people to take care of you? He wouldn't be that stingy, right?" Steele was already 3 months pregnant, and her stomach had a small bump. She rubbed her stomach when she heard this and replied with a smile, "This is my idea because I don't like having too many people at home. I feel it's too noisy. Liz and Linda have been here for a long time, so Sue-E and I treat them as family. If you find a few more unfamiliar people, I won't be used to it." "You're worried?" 70 asked. "If you're worried about this, I can have someone find a few people who are definitely trustworthy. Moreover, they are very experienced in taking care of pregnant women, so they can make it much easier for you. Many thanks for your highness' good intentions, but forget it, I feel it's quite good now." Seeing that Steele was firm, 70 didn't insist. She turned to ask about Steele's current condition. Seeing that the 2 of them were happily chatting and they were gradually talking about something more private, Sue-E didn't stay on the side and went to help Liz and Linda. When dinner was almost ready, Vivian came back from Baron Ricto Magic Academy with Teresa. Sue-E suddenly thought of a problem. Last month, the new batch of students graduated from Baron Ricto Magic Academy. Many of these students had received bursary funds from New Flyer when they were still in the academy. Therefore, according to the agreement, many of these students would enter New Flyer after graduation. Sue-E kept a few students who weren't very talented in magic, and those who urgently needed to start working to make money, to work in various factories to complete the work of setting up magic arrays. Most of the other students were sent to the New Flight College to further their studies. For example, Oren Zedeman, who left the deepest impression on Sue-E, actually took the initiative to ask Sue-E to study at the New Flight College. It was said that his performance in the New Flight College was also very outstanding. Sue-E's question was how the students felt about this arrangement. Because Sue-E is the president of New Flyer, he certainly can't get a real answer from the students. Vivian is a student of Baron Ricto Magic Academy, so she should have more contact with the other students in private, so she should get a more realistic answer. They are all very satisfied. Vivian answered naturally when she heard Sue-Yi's question. I asked a lot of people. They all said that they learned a lot of new knowledge in a new flight college, and they're very happy. That's good. Sue was relieved and turned to look at Teresa. Teresa, what about you? How do you feel working at the Academy of Magic? Compared to when Sue first rescued her, Teresa's situation now is much better. Although she still remains silent most of the time, at least when Sue asked her a question, she would still smile. I feel very good. Teresa nodded. My colleagues at the Research Institute are very good to me, and I'm very happy working there. Researching magic machines is very interesting. I like it very much. Is that so? It's good that you're happy. Sue hesitated a bit before giving up the idea of asking Teresa about the things hidden in her heart. She wasn't willing to talk about these things, so asking her wasn't a good thing. After dinner was prepared, 70 saw Teresa at the table for the first time, so she couldn't help asking a few questions out of curiosity. However, Teresa was very silent in front of people she wasn't familiar with, so she either nodded or shook her head no matter what 70 asked. Even if she agreed, it was just a forced 70 naturally felt bored and didn't ask anymore. She turned to care about Steele's situation, but when they were leaving after dinner, 70 called Sue to the side. Sue, what is going on with this Teresa? What do you mean, what is going on? Sue was surprised. Didn't you just ask? I saw her faint on the road in the middle of the night, so I saved her. I'm not asking about this. 70 shook her head. What I want to ask is, what kind of attitude do you have towards her? What kind of attitude can I have? She has no home now, and since I saved her, I'll help her to the end. I've arranged for her to work in our new flyer, and she usually rests in the Falling Star Manor. There's nothing else. You really didn't think of anything? 70 slightly knit her brows as she looked at Sue. She's very beautiful. She is very beautiful. What about it? Sue asked back in a confused voice. 70 seriously looked at Sue's expression for a while before suddenly laughing. She waved her hand and said, All right, I was worrying too much. Our chairman Sue's head should be filled with ice-cold magic machines. How could he think of all these strange things? Am I right? Sue was even more confused. I say, Your Highness, what do you want to say? It's nothing, just stay with Steele tonight. She's in the early stages of pregnancy, and her emotions aren't stable, so you have to care for her. Of course. Sue nodded. In order to stay with her, I specially moved from the Falling Rain Valley to the Falling Star Manor. Other than the Falling Star Manor being a bit better, it's also because I've been taking care of things in Banna City, so it's more convenient to stay with her. It's good that you can pay attention to this. 70 gave a slight nod of praise before waving her hand at Sue. All right, go back and stay with Steele. I'll be heading back first. Don't go to the City Lord Manor tomorrow morning. We'll meet up at Coral Village. Sue laughed. Then many thanks for the City Lord's understanding. 70 revealed a faint smile before turning to enter the horse carriage. Watching the horse carriage disappear into the night, Sue's expression became a bit strange. 70's visit today was purely personal. Although this showed that she had a good relationship with Sue, if others knew about this, they would definitely have opinions about this. Although Chairman Salick and the others didn't say anything on the surface, based on various signs, they already had some opinions in their hearts. If 70 acted too close to him, it would have some influence. But thinking about it, Sue gave a self-deprecating laugh. Why would he need to worry about this? Anyway, everyone knew that 70 cared about him, and this was a fact that everyone agreed on. Rather than spending time on this problem, it was better to think about how to accompany Steele. Thinking of this, Sue remembered that 70 had reminded him of this problem several times today and had seriously warned him before leaving. Sue couldn't help feeling a bit strange again. Why did 70 care about Teresa this much? Could it be that she thought that he would have some special thoughts about Teresa? After thinking for a bit, Sue shook his head. He turned back to the Falling Star Manor and went to his bedroom. After spending an hour with Steele as usual, when Steele was helped by Liz and Linda to take a bath before going to bed, Sue rushed to the study to take care of some work. The new industrial zone that he discussed with 70 today was actually around Santon Manor, rebuilding and expanding the previous Santon industrial zone. Because of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce before, There were many small companies that made magic machines and components that built factories around Santon Manor, naturally forming a small Santon industrial area. But this kind of industrial zone that wasn't specially planned was a bit messy. In the long run, there would be many problems. The most obvious point was that the roads and other facilities weren't convenient to lay down. Because of Count Stark, the small companies had already moved out of the Santon industrial zone, leaving this place empty again. Now that 70 had taken over as Banacity City Lord, she wanted to develop the industrial zone outside Banacity, so she planned around Santon Manor. According to the first step of the plan, they planned to demolish all the original buildings here and lay the corresponding roads, water pipes, street lights, and other supporting facilities. Then they could divide the area according to the planned area so that the various chambers of commerce could rebuild their factories here. But now there was an important problem. It was that because of Count Stag, many small companies in Banacity had lost confidence in Banacity. Because for these small companies, it was impossible for them to be as resistant as a large company like New Flyer. With the slightest change, it was very likely that they would be hurt or even closed down. Last time, because of Count Stark, most of these small companies had moved out of Banacity, which made these small companies suffer quite a bit. Now that 70 had taken over as Banacity City Lord and showed that she supported business, especially the development of the magic machine industry, most of the small companies were still watching and didn't dare take risks. In the end, no one could guarantee what kind of attitude the new City Lord would have after 70 was no longer Banacity City Lord. When 70 and Sue were discussing this, they focused on how to restore the confidence of these small companies. Chapter 411. Regarding this, Sue Yi's suggestion to 70 was to first advertise it and then give them some preferential policies. The publicity was quite simple because the Banta Times was biased towards the Frestac Chamber of Commerce. At the same time, because of Hannes, they firmly stood on 70's side. Since 70 took over as the city lord, they spared no effort in publicizing 70's name. Adding in the fact that 70 had a good reputation in the hearts of the Lampari Kingdom citizens and had a high prestige, in less than 2 months after taking over as Banacity City Lord, she had already established a very high prestige and a very good image in Banacity. As for the actual policies, Banacity had an advantage that the other cities in the Lampari Kingdom didn't have. It was that it had been designated a special economic zone 2 years ago, so it had some special policies. Adding in 70's status as the princess, she had even more privileges. So after Sue proposed some preferential policies, 70 quickly decided to announce some policies to encourage business development in Banacity. For example, the most important thing for the companies in Banacity was the tax policy. 70 directly announced that the City Lord Manor would reduce the business tax, and in order to encourage the development of the magic machine industry, she would also reduce the business tax for all the companies that produced magic machines. At the same time, she would give these companies some priority. Although many people secretly accused 70 as the new city lord of being biased towards the New Flyer, with the announcement of this policy, no matter what company it was in Banacity, whether they were producing magic machines or not, they would all quickly enter the magic machine industry. Some companies that were only experimenting with the magic machine industry before were now openly announcing that they wanted to enter the magic machine industry, developing new magic machines. Of course, the slogan was one thing, but the actual effects were another. Last month, there was a large pile of magic fans with different brands that appeared in Banacity. Whether it was their outer appearance or inner structure, it was because of this policy. But among these magic fans, most of them weren't qualified products in Sue Yi's eyes. By relying on these substandard products, these merchant guilds could advertise that they were also producing magic machines and enjoy the business tax reduction policy. Sue Yi naturally couldn't accept this situation. This policy was to encourage the development of the magic machine industry in Banacity, but it was used by these companies to take advantage of this loophole. Whether it was to help 70 or for the healthy development of the magic machine industry, Sue had to solve this problem. But like he said to 70, To get these companies that only cared about benefits back on the right path, other than punishment, the most important thing was to give them enough benefits. Sui thought for a bit before turning to the large map of the Lampari Kingdom on the wall of the study. There were more red dots on the map than before, and there were also red dots that appeared in places far away from Bana City, which meant that the companies that were related to the magic machine industry had spread in every part of the Lampari Kingdom. This large change had occurred in the past 2 months, and the main reason was the appearance of the magic car. With the efforts of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, there were currently over 2,000 kilometers of roads in the Lampari Kingdom, and it was still increasing at a rate of over 50 kilometers per month. Now that all the cities in the Lampari Kingdom were connected by roads, the flow of traffic was completely different from before. With the appearance of the magic car, because the magic car's capacity and transport speed far surpassed horse carriages, whether it was finished magic machines or magic machines, they could be easily transported to any city in the Lampari Kingdom. This greatly increased the development of the magic machine industry in the Lampari Kingdom. According to the statistics from New Flyer last month, the sales of the household magic machines produced by New Flyer in Bana City had dropped. The sales of the Xinfei brand magic fans had dropped by 30% compared to last year. But if the total sales were included, it was more than double last year's sales. The extra close to 20,000 magic fans were naturally sold to the other cities of the Lampari Kingdom. Just like New Flyer, the other magic machine companies in Bana City also sold their products to other cities, and their sales had also increased. According to the statistics from the last Bana City Magic Machine Business Association, in this summer, the various companies of Bana City had sold over 130,000 magic fans of various brands. The sales locations included all the cities in the Lampari Kingdom. Other than New Flyer, there were several companies whose magic fans were only a bit weaker than the Xinfei brand magic fans, but their prices were much lower, so they were sold to the surrounding countries of the Lampari Kingdom. The most exaggerated one was the Serene Chamber of Commerce. He didn't know how they found a connection, but they actually sold 5,000 magic fans to the Sac Kingdom. This really was something that Sui never expected. Moreover, according to Chairman Rank, the magic fan was very popular in the Sac Kingdom, so he wanted to invite New Flyer to sell the other household magic machines produced by New Flyer to the Sac Kingdom as well. Sui was very supportive of this idea of earning foreign exchange. But with the production capacity of all the magic machine companies in New Flyer and Bana City, they couldn't satisfy the needs of the Lampari Kingdom even if they added them together. So they could only delay selling to other countries for now. Thinking of production capacity, this was something that Sui was currently having a headache over. Limited by the development of the magic machines, the production capacity of the factories in New Flyer had reached a limit, while the demand for magic machines in the outside world had greatly increased. Adding in the convenience of the magic car, there was a large demand for magic machines in the Lampari Kingdom. So New Flyer's production capacity was becoming less and less. So they were forced to give up the market in many cities to other companies that produced magic machines. Although a part of this was because Sui wanted to promote the development of the magic machine industry, the fact that there wasn't enough production capacity still existed. There were many companies that could produce magic fans and magic kettles, but this wasn't very obvious. But for the household magic machines that other companies couldn't produce, like the magic air conditioner or the magic refrigerator, because only New Flyer was producing them, their production couldn't keep up with the demand at all. Now the household magic machine factories of the Xinfei Chamber of Commerce were all working overtime, but they couldn't fulfill large amounts of orders. To solve this problem, one was to expand New Flyer's production. But because Banta City's population was limited and their labor force was limited, Sui wasn't planning on fighting for workers with the other companies, so he had been looking to other cities recently. He planned to move New Flyer's household magic machine factories to other cities. In this month, New Flyer had built 3 household magic machine factories in Saltan City, Norton City, and Canberra City to share the pressure of the falling Rain Valley's production. When the other companies of Bana City saw the actions of New Flyer, they immediately followed in the footsteps of New Flyer, opening factories in these 3 cities. Adding in the small magic machine companies that already existed in these cities, Now these three cities were like Bantus City from 2 years ago, entering a stage of rapid development. The wages of the local workers in these three cities had soared from less than 5 gold coins at first. Now, it was over 10 gold coins on average. Even if it was far from the average wage of Bantus City, compared to the average wage of these three cities before, it was already several times higher. After these three cities, he was planning on expanding New Flyer even further into Kramer City. After that, it would affect Ambilmar City before affecting the entire Lampari Kingdom. If the entire Lampari Kingdom invested in developing the magic machine industry, the scene that Sui dreamed of would appear even faster. Other than expanding on his own, the other method was to find others to share the pressure. Sui decided to fully disclose the technology of the magic fan and the magic kettle to the other companies because he was considering this. Other than disclosing these two technologies, Sui was also planning on transferring the various household magic machine technologies to the other companies. In the end, there would be many companies that had the ability to produce household magic machines. Like this, not only would it allow more companies to enter the magic machine industry, it would also force these companies to invest more in research in order to catch up to the quality of the Xinfei brand household magic machines. This would allow the magic machine industry to develop even further. Looking at the dense red dots on the map, Sui revealed a faint smile. He took out a pen and drew several red lines from Banta City to Karma City, Sultan City, Norton City, and Canberra City, connecting these cities. Then he drew 2 dotted lines between Banta City, Canberra City, Banta City, and Seoul City in the northeast of the Lampari Kingdom, which represented where New Flyer would go next. After doing this, Sui gave a satisfied nod. As long as he followed the plan step by step, sooner or later Banta City would be connected to many other cities in the Lampari Kingdom, and the magic machine industry would spread across the kingdom. Do. At this time, there were 2 soft sounds that came from the study door. Chapter 412. Because of 70's special permission, Sui didn't need to leave the Falling Star Manor early in the morning to start working the next day. But he still followed his normal biological clock and woke up around 6. Before Steele woke up, he rushed the surprised Vivian, Liz, and Linda to the side and personally made breakfast for himself. He then personally brought it to Steele, who only woke up at 8. Sui, normally people who have done something wrong would be this attentive. Could it be that you've done something wrong to me? Steele looked at Sui with a warm smile, and she couldn't help looking at Liz and Linda behind Sui with a smile. Could it be that you went back on your words last night? While I was sleeping, you and Linda... Eat properly, don't waste words. Sui put the spoon in Steele's mouth and blocked her mouth. Steele revealed a faint smile. With Sui's service, she slowly enjoyed the rare breakfast that Sui personally made and fed to her. While carefully serving Steele, Sui discussed the matter he had considered last night with Steele. Because of Steele's actions last night, Sui felt that she must have been bored staying in the Falling Star Manor. So she had all these strange thoughts that didn't match her personality. So in order to solve this problem, Sui seriously considered it and decided to agree to Steele's request to continue working. Although under Steele's strong request, Sui didn't let Steele completely leave work, but he strictly controlled her workload. In fact, it caused Steele to have nothing to do every day. Now that he found that doing this would cause Steele's thoughts to run wild, and it wasn't good for Steele's body or mood, Sui decided to relax this restriction. He discussed with Steele how she could work more while still having enough time to rest. Steele had clearly seriously considered this problem, so when Sui proposed this idea, she was happy while also seriously discussing it with Sui. The two were smart people, and they didn't have any conflicts with each other, so naturally they had a happy discussion. It didn't take long for them to come to a decision. According to the agreement between Sui and Steele, when Steele was 3 months pregnant, she could return her job and continue working for the other races in the Lampari Kingdom. As the New Flyer's influence became bigger, the companies in Banta City and many other cities gradually began to hire other races to work for them. According to Steele's statistics, other than the New Flyer, the other companies in Banta City hired beastmen. The beastmen had surpassed the dwarves and were the most, with over 1,000 people. The dwarves were right behind them, with around 300 people. Most of them were mechanical engineers. The ones with the fewest were the elves, with less than 20 of them. As for the attitude of these other race workers, most of the Lampari Kingdom's parliament had opposed it at first. But now, the parliament had taken a very positive attitude. Through Steele's new Moon Chamber of Commerce, they had loosened their restrictions and allowed other races to work like humans in the Lampari Kingdom. Speaking of this, most of the other races in the Lampari Kingdom have already entered the various companies, right? Sui said. They can be considered to have integrated into our human society, but the other countries on the continent are definitely different from our Lampari Kingdom. Have you considered recruiting other races from other countries? Other countries? Still slightly knit her brows. Steele knit his brows. I'm afraid we can't avoid the people in those countries, right? It's fine. Let the other races working for the companies contact them. We won't interfere. Look, didn't Camby's group contact a dwarf tribe in the Kingdom of Roar a while ago? They said that they were planning on persuading the dwarf tribe to move to Bana City, and then they wanted me to consider accepting them. If the dwarf tribe moves, the human countries won't care, so we have to take advantage of this time to do this. Otherwise, when the other countries realize the value of other races, it will be hard to do this. This worry is correct. Steele nodded. At least I'm clear that if the new flyer doesn't have dwarves, most of its production will stop. So we should take advantage of this time to dig up as many as we can. You have to know, human resources are more important than other resources. While talking to Steele about this, they enjoyed breakfast together. When they finished eating breakfast, the sun was already halfway up in the sky. When Sui arrived at Koror village, he found that a group of people had been waiting for a long time. Hey, Chairman Sui, I heard that you were staying at home with the madam, so you came late, right? Seeing Sui, who was late, Chairman Cruz said with a loud laugh. The crowd broke out in laughter filled with goodwill, making Sui give an awkward laugh. Then he looked at 70, who was surrounded by everyone. 70 looked up and gave Sui a proud smile. Then she looked at the sky and announced, All right, since Chairman Sui is here, I will now announce that the construction of Banta City's new agricultural base will begin. Under 70's lead, the business representatives, including Sui, all shoveled a bit of soil. Then the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had already prepared a bunch of construction magic machines that came forward and began working on the land that had been planned ahead of time. As a demonstration of agriculture and business development that 70 declared, the new Flyer canned fruit factory in Koror village was the focus of 70's investigation and promotion in the months that she had been the city lord. After reaching an agreement with the other large companies in the city, 70 represented the city lord manor to create a new agricultural development base around Koror village. The use of this new agricultural development base was to be like the canned fruit factory, combining Bana City's agricultural development and business development. It would increase the commercial value of agricultural products and increase the income of normal farmers. This idea was considered 70's experiment for the future development of Bana City. If it was placed in the Lampari Kingdom, it was a bit too far ahead. Because even if the grain yield of the Lampari Kingdom had increased in the past 2 years, it was still a bit lacking overall. The other cities of the kingdom were having headaches over how to solve the problem of food and clothing for their citizens. But Banta City was considering how to change the agricultural structure and increase the income of the farmers. This really was too much of contrast. Because of Banta City's actions, there was a debate in the royal parliament. Many members of the parliament expressed that if Banta City had this kind of leisure time, why didn't they think about how to develop agriculture in the other parts of the kingdom first? For example, the fertilizer that had been tested in Bana City, why didn't they quickly produce more of it? This was better than doing something that didn't seem reliable and sounded strange, right? As for the other few members, they said that since Banta City was developing well, they should let Banta City develop in their own way. They shouldn't let Bana City take a large step backwards like when Count Stagg was the city lord. Although the voices that agreed with 70 and Bana City's actions were smaller, because Count Stag's actions when he was the city lord had affected Bana City too much, no matter how loud the voices of opposition were, they didn't have much confidence. Not to mention that His Majesty had clearly expressed his attitude. Since Bana City was a special economic zone, they should keep it as a special place. As for whether the effects were good or not, it would depend on the results. The final result of the discussion was to give Banta City a goal. Banta City wanted to be special? Yes, but since they wanted to be special, they had to make some special achievements. According to the final result of the Royal Parliament's discussion, when it came to the end of the year, Banta City had to pay at least 30% of last year's harvest and taxes. Otherwise, they would cancel Bana City's special economic zone treatment. Hey, should I say that the members of the parliament don't have any knowledge? Or is it because they decided to do this that they even gave up on their intelligence? He shook his head, giving a ruthless evaluation of the Royal Parliament's decision. 30%? Humph. The results of this year's fall harvest are already out. Could it be that they don't know that it's already more than half of last year's fall harvest? They don't care that much about the grain harvest. The reason they requested this was to prevent me from putting all my energy into business development. 70 shook her head and explained. 70 shook her head. The important thing is the tax revenue. They feel that if they can't make results that are clearly better than when Count Stag was the city lord, it doesn't mean there is a problem. This is considered making excuses for Count Stag? He gave a cold snort. But aren't they looking down on Bana City too much? If it wasn't for Count Stag, Bana City's tax income last year would have been over 1 million gold coins. The amount they paid could even be compared to the year before and the year before that. As for comparing this year to last year, 70 looked at Su Yi's cold smile, but she didn't care at all. Rather, she found it funny as she asked. Then Chairman Su, who is very confident, how much tax do you think our Bana City will pay this year? He reached out his hand and said in a certain voice, at least 500,000 gold coins. That doesn't include our new flyer. 70 revealed a surprised look. Although I'm confident that I can easily meet the requirements of the Royal Parliament, 500,000 gold coins. Moreover, it doesn't include your new flyer. Isn't this a bit too exaggerated? Doesn't this mean that our Bana City's tax income will be over 1.5 million gold coins? He revealed a confident smile. He pointed at the agricultural base that had just begun construction and said, Your Highness, let's make a bet. Do you believe that just the Cantona Chamber of Commerce will be able to pay over 200,000 gold coins in taxes this year? 70 slowly shook her head. Although I don't know the exact number, the Cantona Chamber of Commerce has paid less than 100,000 gold coins in taxes this year. There are only 4 months until the end of the year. How could it surpass 200,000 gold coins? You don't believe me? He reached his hand out to 70. Then, Honorable Lord City Lord, how about we make this bet? Chapter 413. Chairman Su, are you tricking me? Cantona looked at Su-yi with a bitter smile. Our company's total income this year is less than 200,000 gold coins. How could we pay over 200,000 gold coins in taxes? If we disappoint Her Highness in the end, our company might not be able to stay in Bana City in the future. Why would I trick you? Su-yi revealed a confident smile to Cantona and patted his shoulder as he said, Relax, if I didn't have any confidence, how could I make this bet with Her Highness? Seeing how confident Su-yi was, Cantona thought of all the miracles Su-yi had created before, and there was a trace of hope. Then, Chairman Su, do you have any ideas? Come, let me ask you something. What do you think of our company's canned fruit factory? Su-yi asked. It's very good. What about it? Cantona looked at Su-yi in surprise. Then do you know how much profit the canned fruit factory has made this year? Su-yi asked. Cantona was even more confused. After thinking about it, he hesitantly replied, Of course I don't know the specific numbers, but based on the information from Factory Head it should be quite good, right? I'm guessing it should be over 10,000 gold coins, right? You're looking down on Factory Head too much. He shook his head and stretched out 5 fingers on his left hand. To tell you the truth, so far this year, the can fruit factory has sold over 1 million cans and has made a total profit of close to 50,000 gold coins. That much. Cantona was shocked. The can fruit factory is this small, but the profit is this high. You don't believe it? He said with a laugh. Let me tell you, this is just the beginning. Now that there are transport magic cars, these canned fruits can be easily transported to various places in the kingdom. Moreover, our company signed a contract with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce not long ago, so these canned fruits will be sold to the Walmart Chamber of Commerce in the various cities. In the future, the sales of canned fruits will only increase, and the profits will naturally be higher. Cantona's face was filled with shock, but he couldn't help shaking his head. Chairman Su, I have to say, you really can make a lot of money with a single idea. I really admire you. Then do you think that if I say that your Cantona Chamber of Commerce can pay over 200,000 gold coins in taxes by the end of the year, would you believe me? I believe you. Cantona immediately gave a firm nod before asking, But Chairman Su, what do you want me to do? First tell me, what is the main business of your Cantona Chamber of Commerce? He asked. Of course it's the farmland. Cantona had a bitter look on his face. Although doing this can be considered profitable, it's not flexible enough. The money that can be earned every year is fixed. I estimate that this year, at most, we will only be able to pay more than 100,000 gold coins in taxes. More than 200,000 gold coins is out of the question. You just said that you had confidence in me, but now you're giving up this quickly. Sui looked at him before patting his shoulder and continuing. Relax, it's not like I have nothing to do. Looking for you, of course I have a goal. Come with me. Cantona followed Sui in a confused manner, coming to a normal room in the New Flyers Magic Machine Development Center in the Falling Rain Valley. Take a look at this. Sui pointed at a metal cylinder that was over 1 meter tall and close to 1 meter in diameter in the corner of the room. Cantona came over to take a look and found that there was a lid on the top of the cylinder. After getting Sui's permission, he opened it and found that the cylinder was hollow, but there was a metal rod inside. There were many sharp metal blades attached to it, looking very fierce. This is the new magic machine your company has developed, right? What is it used for? This thing is called the Magic Juice Extractor. It's mainly designed to extract fruit juice. Sui explained. Extract fruit juice? Cantona looked at the frightening sharp metal blades in the barrel and understood a bit. Do you put the fruit in here, cut it up, and squeeze out the juice? That's right. Cantona thought about it before his eyes lit up. Chairman Su, you mean that I can rely on this thing to extract fruit juice to sell? Then his eyes dimmed. Cantona's eyes dimmed. But fruit juice only tastes good when it's fresh and it can't be stored for long, so it can only be sold in Banda City. I don't have the strength to open a store in another city, so this thing isn't that useful to me. I thought that your mind was sharp, so you would understand my intentions. Sui gave a sigh before suddenly clapping his hands. Miranda, come out. Hearing the footsteps, Cantona turned in a daze. He saw the door to his left open and a slender female elf came out. Come, let me introduce you. Sui pointed at the female elf as he spoke to Cantona. This elven beauty is called Miranda. She comes from the Principality of Constantine's Moonshadow tribe. Miranda, this is the Cantona Chamber of Commerce's chairman Cantona that I mentioned to you before. The two of you might need to work together for a long time, so get to know each other first. Cantona was surprised before quickly reaching his hand out to Miranda with a bit of fear. Hello, beautiful elven miss. Being able to meet you is my honor. Miranda looked over Cantona before asking Sui. Chairman Su, are you certain that I should work with him? Sui nodded. Cantona is someone I trust. All right, I believe in your judgment. Miranda nodded. She looked at Cantona's outstretched hand, and after thinking about it, she reached her hand out to gently shake Cantona's hand. Chairman Cantona, I'm very happy to meet you. Although Cantona had been in contact with the new flyer quite a bit and was in contact with the elves often to discuss cooperation like this face-to-face. Wait a minute. Chairman Sui just said that he wanted to work with this beautiful female elf? What was going on? Didn't you just say that fresh fruit juice tastes good, but there are various restrictions because of its short shelf life? Then what do you think, if we can keep the fruit juice fresh for a long time, how much will it sell? So he asked back with a smile. It will definitely sell like crazy, Cantona immediately said in an excited voice. Moreover, I'm certain that this thing will be even more popular than canned fruit, because it's troublesome to make your own fruit juice. Now that someone can provide cheap and fresh fruit juice, it will definitely be welcomed by everyone. It's good that you're confident. Sui nodded with a smile before pointing at Miranda and saying, "All right, now you and Miranda can discuss how to keep the fruit juice fresh and delicious. After you're done, we'll discuss the next step." Seeing Cantona excitedly talking to Miranda, Sui left the room. When he came out, he bumped into Camby, who had rushed over after hearing the news. Camby looked at the situation in the room and asked Sui with a confused look, "Chairman, fresh fruit juice is definitely a good thing to sell. Why did you give it to the Cantona Chamber of Commerce? Why didn't our company do it ourselves? This should be more profitable than canned fruit, right? This should indeed be more profitable and last longer. If our new flyer did it ourselves, we would definitely earn quite a bit of money. But Camby, there are many things that can earn money in this world, and our new flyer can't hold everything in our hands, so this isn't a suitable method. Remember, our new flyer is a magic machine company." Camby shook his head. "I don't understand. Although our main business is magic machines, it shouldn't be a problem to earn money from other businesses, right? You can treat it as me being willful. In short, I hope that our company can focus on magic machines and not participate in other things. Even for the canned fruit factory, I've already discussed it with Her Highness. We're planning to find a suitable time to transfer it to the villagers of Koror Village and let them manage it themselves. That's too much of pity." Camby knit his brows. In the last meeting, Seabass said that the canned fruit factory's development was very good and the profits would definitely increase in the future. To give it up like this, it's a bit wasteful. Sui laughed. "It's fine. I'm used to being wasteful. You'll get used to it." "Sir Chairman, you really are the strangest human I've ever seen." Camby helplessly shook his head. "A few days ago, the chief and I were planning to have our tribe and new flyer open a factory together. Now it seems like you're not interested." "Oh." Chief Saluka has seen the Night Song tribe open a factory, and he's not willing to be left out? Sui asked with a smile. Camby laughed, tacitly agreeing with Suyi's guess. "Tell me, what factory is Chief Saluka planning to open?" Sui kept asking. The chief said that Bana City has had a great harvest for several years now, and because of the fertilizer this year, the wheat yield is ridiculously high, so there will be quite a bit of wheat in Bana City. He's planning to open a brewery with our new flyer. Brewery? Sui couldn't help smiling. This really suits the style of you dwarves. What? Even the wine of the Sachi Manor can't satisfy you? You have to open your own brewery? It can be considered one of the reasons. Camby rubbed his head and said with a laugh. But the main reason is that the chief feels that with how good our dwarves are at making wine, it would be a waste if we didn't use it for something. We didn't do this before because there wasn't enough grain to eat, so we didn't have enough to make wine. But not only is Banta City's grain yield high, our company's farmland in the Principality of Constantine also has a high yield. Anyway, there's a lot more, so we might as well use it to make wine. This idea isn't bad. I support it very much. Sui thought about it before saying with a nod, "That's right, there are still 100,000 tons of wheat in Banta City's granary. Her Highness and I were discussing how to deal with the extra wheat a while ago. I think that I can convince her to take out a small part of it to make wine, which can be considered an effective source of income for Banta City." Great. Hearing Suyi's response, Camby excitedly waved his fist. The chief is worried that it won't be easy for us dwarves to buy enough wheat. Now that Sir Chairman is here, it's much easier. This is a win-win situation. I'm very happy to facilitate it. Sui said with a smile. But I'm only a middleman. As for the specifics, you have to learn from the elves of the Night Song tribe and solve your own problems. I won't meddle. All right, we understand humans better than those stubborn elves, so there definitely won't be a problem. Camby forcefully patted his chest as he spoke in a voice filled with confidence. I hope that when I ask about the development of the new magic machines, you can tell me that there definitely won't be a problem. Upon hearing this question, Kanbai's face, which was brimming with confidence, instantly crumbled. Chapter 414. Sir Chairman, actually as for the new magic machines. Whether it is the Academy of Magic or a Magic Machine Development Center, we already have some mature ideas. But in terms of research, there is a very important problem, and this problem can't be solved at all. Seeing Camby's awkward look, he didn't even think as he immediately said, "It's a problem with the materials, right?" Camby was stunned before quickly replying, "Right, it's a problem with the materials." Chairman, your request for the new magic machines is to increase the power of the magic machines. I understand your idea. You want to rely on the higher specifications of the magic machines to make more powerful magic machines. Right? If the specifications of the magic machines are too low, we will be limited when we want to make large magic machines. So we have to solve the problem of the magic machines first. He said with a nod. Camby said with a bitter smile. But after the various powers of the magic machines are increased, the requirements for the materials have become much higher. For example, when we were developing the medium-size magic punch press, it could only take 10,000 presses before it would have serious cracks and couldn't work. 10,000 presses? He knit his brows. Isn't that a bit too little? You haven't thought of another way to alleviate it? We've thought about it. For example, we can cover the outside of the magic machines with mud to counteract the vibrations and reduce the pressure on the machine, but the effects aren't that clear. Camby said with a sigh. In the end, to achieve the desired effect, the machine itself has to withstand the corresponding pressure, which is something that can't be avoided. So in the end, we can only solve the problem of the materials used to make the magic machines. Sui also gave a bitter laugh. There's no other way. I can't solve this problem either. Material research can't be rushed. There are no shortcuts. Every time he discussed the problem of materials with Camby and the others, he was very regretful that he didn't learn more about material science when he was on Earth. He couldn't use his experience on Earth to develop the new flyer in this area. However, material science was broad and profound. Even if he had this idea at that time, he probably didn't have the time. Now that he could use his mechanical engineering knowledge to build the new flyer in Bana City in just 3 years, it couldn't be considered wrong. At the end of the day, the industrial system was incomparably complex, and it was far from something he could handle alone. It's a good thing that we already have many kinds of non-ferrous metals. As long as we keep researching, I think we'll be able to make a breakthrough in material research and find a suitable alloy to make this kind of magic machine that needs to resist strong forces. He comforted Camby. As for now, let's do some research under the limited conditions first. That's the only way. Camby nodded. Soon after, he became excited again. But Chairman, the research on the new production magic machines isn't all bad news. Oh, that meant that there's still a breakthrough. Tell me, in what aspect did you break through? Is it the problem with the magic lathe that you mentioned last time, or is it the problem with the precise positioning of the magic punch that Bordeaux mentioned last time? These are all small problems. Why would I specially come to report to you? Camby shook his head and said with a proud look, "Actually, it's the problem with the automatic control of the production magic machines that you've mentioned countless times." He was stunned before being surprised. It can't be, right? Could it be that you've developed an automatic control production magic machine? How is that possible? Hey, come with me and take a look. He followed Camby to the production magic machine workshop with a look of disbelief. He saw a brand new production magic machine in the center of the workshop, and the dwarf Bordeaux was about to put a meter-long steel plate into it. "Wait, Bordeaux, let the chairman take a look." Camby called out to Bordeaux in a loud voice. Bordeaux looked up at and stopped what he was doing. When and Camby came to the production magic machine together, he used a rather slow movement to put the steel plate into a slot in the production magic machine. When the steel plate was placed in the slot, Bordeaux pressed a button on the production magic machine before taking 2 steps back, showing that he wouldn't interfere at all. Saw the production magic machine automatically start and send the steel plate out of the slot before cutting off a semicircular corner. After this process was done, the production magic machine automatically turned the steel plate and moved it to the side of the slot, cutting off a semicircular corner. This process was repeated several times. When the four corners of the steel plate were all cut, the slot once again drove the steel plate to sink. Then it was split into two and clamped. Then, under the drive of the two iron clamps, it bent slightly upward and was sent out by the slot again. Sui looked at the steel plate that had changed greatly in surprise before looking at the production magic machine, as he became a bit excited. That's right. Although the movements were very simple and the process was quite simple, this production magic machine didn't have anyone controlling it and was completely automatic. This meant that as long as they researched it further, perhaps there would be an automatic production magic machine on signs that could compare to the CNC machines on Earth. He took a deep breath and suppressed the excitement in his heart. He had Bordeaux send the steel plate into the production magic machine again. Bordeaux did the same, and Sui saw the steel plate go through the same process again before being sent out. Sui put the two steel plates together and was surprised to find that they were exactly the same. He even had Camby take out a vernier caliper and found that the error was less than 0.1 millimeters. Although it was far from being able to compare to the high-precision CNC machines on Earth for the level of the signs industry, this was already very shocking. Sui had Bordeaux repeat the process several times, and after comparing the finished steel plates, he found that the largest error between the steel plates was less than 0.2 millimeters. Great! Sui couldn't help shouting out. Then he forcefully patted Camby and Bordeaux's shoulders as he excitedly said, "You've done great. With this thing, our company's production efficiency will greatly increase, and I won't need to worry about production anymore." Ha, great. I want to commend you on behalf of the company. I decided to give you. Wait, Camby suddenly cut off the excited Sui. Sir Chairman, the biggest contributor to this automatic production magic machine isn't us. Rather, it's Sanchely. If you want to give a reward, you should give it to him first. Sanchely? Sui was stunned before digging out the name of this person from the depths of his mind. So it was him. No wonder. Since the magic fountain in the new city square had a breakthrough in magic programming technology, Sanchely hadn't made any new discoveries in close to 2 years. Sui had almost forgotten about this person. He never thought that when Sui was very excited about this automatic production magic machine that could solve the production problem that had troubled him for a long time, Sanchely would jump out without any warning. Sui was stunned for a bit before asking Camby, "You're saying that Sanchely also participated in the development of this automatic production magic machine?" It's not too accurate to say that he participated. Accurately speaking, the idea of this automatic production magic machine was first proposed by him. Camby replied, "If it wasn't for him telling us that we could use magic to set up the production magic machine ahead of time, we wouldn't have thought of this at all. Moreover, the most important automatic magic array on this production magic machine was completed by him, so I think that the biggest contributor should be him. We just changed the structure of the production magic machine. It isn't much. It's far from being able to compare to the automatic magic array he solved." The Academy of Magic also had the same idea. They felt that they should give Sanchely the greatest merit. Bordeaux also said. Sui thought for a bit before suddenly giving a cold snort. "For such an important development, why didn't anyone inform me ahead of time? Even when you were about to finish developing this automatic production magic machine, I didn't know about it. Are you not putting me, the chairman, in your eyes?" Seeing Sui's dark expression, Camby and Bordeaux were both scared. Camby quickly waved his hand and explained, "Sir Chairman, don't misunderstand. It wasn't that we hid it from you, but Sanchely strongly requested us not to tell you ahead of time." That's right. Sanchely said that he had wasted several years in the company and always felt that he had wronged you. If this automatic production magic machine was developed, it could be considered as repayment to you. But if it failed, he felt that he had no face to see you, so he didn't dare let you know. Bordeaux also explained, "Humph, that means that he has the face to see me now?" Sui's expression was still unhappy. Since he doesn't dare take the initiative to see me, I won't take the initiative to look for him. Help me tell him that when this automatic production magic machine is finished, I will give a special reward to everyone who participated in developing it. If he doesn't appear at that time, he shouldn't appear in front of me ever again. After throwing down these words, Sue turned to leave the Magic Machine Development Center. However, before he even walked 100 meters, Sue couldn't hold back the expression on his face as he broke out in laughter from the bottom of his heart. Compared to how much money the company earned, he was always more willing to see the company make breakthroughs in their research. Among all the research, he placed the most importance on the development of the production magic machine, which was the most common and most needed thing in the industrial system. Before this, the automatic production magic machine was just an idea in his mind. Because he knew how hard it was to develop magic array programming technology, he had always been patient with Sanchely. But now, Sanchely had secretly cooperated with the Academy of Magic and the Magic Machine Development Center, successfully developing the automatic production magic machine. No matter how crude this automatic production magic machine was, compared to the high-precision CNC machines on Earth, this meant that the new flyer had finally taken the first step in their research. As long as they kept developing it, they would catch up to the standards of Earth sooner or later. After receiving such a large piece of good news, how could Sue not be filled with joy? Chapter 4:15. After Anduin walked out of the door, he glanced at the farmland in the distance that had become barren after the harvest and was waiting to be reclaimed. After hesitating for a moment, he sat down at the door, took out his self-made hookah, and took a few puffs. His brows were deeply furrowed. Old man, why aren't you going to the fields? What are you sitting here for? Vera was about to go out for a stroll, but when she saw Old Man Anduin sitting at the door, she immediately asked in a curious voice, I'm thinking about something. Old Man Anduin tapped the ground beside him with his hookah, signaling for Vera to sit down. Tell me, how should we deal with that field? What deal? Of course we should plant it. If we don't plant it, do you want to be barren? Vera looked at Old Man Anduin with a confused look, but she saw that Old Man Anduin had a few more strands of white hair compared to yesterday. Looking at the wrinkles on his face, her heart softened. Of course, it's fine if you don't want to plant it. Anyway, our 2 sons and our daughter have found jobs in the city, and they're earning quite a bit. We could just have them take out a bit to support us. We've raised them this big, so they should have some filial piety. Nonsense! Old Man Anduin angrily reprimanded Vera. Although the children have jobs now, and the salary is good, they have their own families and still need money. Did you forget? Last time the boss came back, he said that he was planning on sending his son to the New Flight College, so it should cost quite a bit. Us 2 old fellows have hands and feet. Why would we add more burden to the children? Vera tried to persuade him, but she was reprimanded by Old Man Anduin. She instantly became unhappy and glared at Old Man Anduin. Then what do you want? I don't want anything. I'm just a bit hesitant. Tell me, should we plant wheat on that piece of land like we did in the past? Or should we plant something else? Plant something else? Plant what? Vera asked in a stunned voice. Didn't the Cantona Chamber of Commerce come to our village a few days ago, saying that they wanted to contract our village to plant fruit trees? I thought that rather than letting them plant it, I might as well plant it myself. After all, we've planted fruit trees for a few years before, so we have experience. If you grow it yourself, you'll earn more money than if you give it to the Cantona Chamber of Commerce. Aunt Vera rolled her eyes at Anduin. If you really want to rely on the land to earn money, you might as well learn from the other villagers and give the land to the Cantona Chamber of Commerce. Based on the fact that our family has over 10 mu of land, we can earn at least 30 gold coins a year. That way, when you're free, you could go to other chambers of commerce and find a job. Wouldn't you be able to earn a lot in the end? That's different. After all, this land belongs to me. I don't feel good handing it over to someone else for money. Anduin shook his head. Besides, I don't want to do meaningless work in those chambers of commerce. Compared to that, I prefer to work in the fields. Vera couldn't help but sigh. Based on her understanding of Anduin after marrying him for more than 30 years, she knew that he had already made up his mind even though he seemed to be hesitating. All right, since you want to do this, then let's do it. Anyway, it's going to earn a bit, and even if you lose money, you won't lose much and you won't die. Aunt Vera showed her support for Anjuin as usual. Hey, since you're saying this, then it's decided. Receiving Aunt Vera's support, Anjuin made his decision. His mind was clear as he tapped the water pipe on the ground and stood up. I'll go to the city and ask how much the saplings are selling. If it goes smoothly, I'll plant them tomorrow. Seeing Anjuin's energetic appearance, Aunt Vera snappily said, Don't you know what time it is now? You're still going to the city? What are you afraid of? Anyway, our village is connected to the road, and there's the First and Carriage Company's magic car public transport. I'll take the public transport this time, and it'll take less than 2 hours. It'll be very fast. Anjuin always had a temper of leaving as soon as he said this. After throwing down these words, he walked out of the village. Although their Prana village that was 70 to 80 kilometers away from Banda City had been connected to the road last month, and the First and Carriage Company had opened public transport, in order to satisfy the needs of the surrounding villages, the public transport stop was still on the road outside the village, and they had to walk a few steps. Who would have thought that before he reached the entrance of the village, there would be several beeping sounds that came from the entrance? Anjuin looked over and saw a medium-sized magic car driving through the narrow gravel road at the entrance of the village. Anjuin was surprised. Could it be that the First and Carriage Company's public transport stop was suddenly changed to the village? The public transport magic car had actually driven in. Looking carefully, he found that the magic car didn't have the First and Carriage Company's logo on it. Rather, there was a sign in front that had the word for rent written on it. Anjuin was surprised before reacting. This should be the magic car that had been popular in Banda City for the past 2 months. The people of the city called it a taxi. But he heard that renting this thing was more expensive than public transport. So those who could afford it were the rich people of the city. Moreover, this taxi actually came from a city to Prana village that was so far away, so it cost quite a bit. Thinking of this, Anjuin hurriedly moved to the side of the road. Although the nobles and merchants of Banda City were more honest when Count Samo was the city lord, now that Her Highness 70 was the city lord, they were even more honest. But compared to these old men, a normal farmer like him had a low status, so he didn't dare block their path. But the strange thing was that this medium-sized magic car stopped beside Anjuin. The window on Anjuin's side opened, and a beautiful young girl with a sweet appearance and a gentle aura who shouldn't have appeared in this kind of remote place popped her head out, revealing a sweet smile to Anjuin. Hello, is this Prana village? Old man Anjuin looked in the car in a daze. He found that other than this young and beautiful girl, there were 2 dwarves and a male elf, as well as 3 human males. One was a bit younger, and the other 2 seemed to be at least 40 years old. Ah, that's right. This is Prana village. Anjuin nodded. You came from Banda City, right? What did you come to our village for? We came here to inspect, the young girl replied. After thinking for a bit, she turned to get out of the car and said to the driver in front, Find an empty place to stop. We're already here. When the driver drove the magic car away, the young girl came to Anjuin's side and said with a smile, Hello, I am Evita. I'm here for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's inspection. May I ask how I should address you? Just call me Anjuin. Anjuin looked over Evita and couldn't help praising. You can be sent by the new flyer to inspect this place. You must have a high position in the new flyer, right? You're this skilled at such a young age. You really aren't simple. That's right. What are you here to inspect? Our Prana village doesn't have anything special to inspect, right? Thank you for your praise. Evita smiled faintly. Evita revealed a faint smile. We're here to inspect the nearby magic crystal mine. Anjuin, you're a local of Prana village, right? Then you should know the situation of the nearby magic crystal mine, right? I've lived here my entire life, and I dare say that there aren't many people who know this place better than me. The magic crystal mine you're talking about should be in that direction. Anjuin pointed to the southwest of the village. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce mined this magic crystal mine for several months before, and I even worked there for a while. It's great that you're familiar with it, Evita said with a happy smile. Then do you have time now? Can I trouble you to take us to inspect it? We're lacking a suitable guide. If we've wasted your time, we're willing to pay you a certain amount of compensation, which should satisfy you. Anjuin laughed and waved his hand. What compensation? It's just leading the way. It's not that big of a deal. All right, I don't have anything urgent to do right now, so I'll take you there. Really? Then I'll have to thank you. Evita turned to wave at the people who had already chosen an open area to get out of the car, telling them to come over. When everyone came over, Evita tapped the ground with the tip of her foot and said to a middle-aged man with a full beard, Manager Dusa, your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's Village Road project isn't finished yet. The road doesn't extend into the village at all. This isn't good. The middle-aged man called Manager Dusa immediately complained, Young Miss Evita, you can't speak carelessly. This project was proposed by your new Flyers chairman, Sue, and our company received permission from the City Lord's Manor to build it. So we didn't cut any corners at all. The reason why we didn't pave the road into the village was to ensure that each village had a road connected to it. As for the future, we will definitely pave the road into each village. Anjuin on the side heard their conversation and couldn't help cutting in. That's right, this little girl, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, has already done a good job. When our village didn't have a road, we could only walk to Banta City, and it wouldn't even take a day to get there. Now that there's a road, even if I don't take the First and Carriage Company's bus, I can get there in a single morning by bicycle. It's much more convenient than before. These are two different matters. Evita shook her head and continued talking to Manager Dusa. No matter what, this road definitely isn't good. If the magic crystal mine starts mining in the future, this road won't be good for transporting magic crystals. This is easy as long as your new flyer is willing to invest. Not only can we pave the road into the village, we can even pave the road into the mine. Manager Dusa proudly said, Of course, your new flyer has money, so it shouldn't be much to pave the road. Evita shook her head, but she didn't say anything else. After Anjuin talked to Aunt Vera, the group followed him to a large mountain to the southwest of the village. Chapter 416. Walking on a mountain path, Evita suddenly stepped on air and her body tilted to the side. The young researcher from the Academy of Magic who came with her, who was also a member of the Magic Crystal refining team, Tibbers, quickly reached out to support her. When Evita's body steadied again, she immediately pushed away Tibbers' hand that was supporting her without batting an eyelid and softly thanked him. A trace of disappointment appeared in Tibbers' eyes. Of the young male researchers of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, most of them had a good impression of this young, beautiful, gentle, and kind principal. He was an exception. It was a pity that even though Evita's attitude towards everyone was friendly, she never showed any special feelings towards anyone. Seeing Evita's gentle side profile, Tibbers gave a sigh in his heart. He slightly knit his brows as he said, Principal, I already said that I could do this alone. Why did you have to personally make a trip? This mountain path is hard to walk on, and you're a girl, so it's inconvenient. Evita shook her head. This is work. There's nothing inconvenient about it. Then again, I was the one who asked for this magic crystal mine from the chairman, so of course I have to be responsible. I can't disappoint the chairman's expectations for me. Us. And I can't waste the precious funds the company has given us. But it's just verifying the quality of the magic crystals. It isn't that hard. I feel that I can easily do it alone. Tibbers said in an unwilling voice. Evita gave him a gentle smile. I believe in your abilities. But this magic crystal mine is the first magic crystal mine that our company has officially mined, so it is very important. The chairman places great importance on the standardization of magic crystals, so I don't want any mistakes on this matter. Isn't it because you don't trust me? Tibbers muttered in an aggrieved voice. It isn't that I don't trust you. But Tibbers, your familiarity with the magic crystal refining array isn't as high as mine, right? Can you make an accurate judgment of each magic crystal with a deviation of less than 0? 1 AI? Evita asked with a serious look. Tibbers thought about it before shaking his head with a bitter laugh. I can't compare to you in this aspect since you're the expert. That's right. Evita softened her tone. I just said that because this is the first magic crystal mine to be mined. We have to be very strict and can't make any mistakes. Moreover, I need to investigate this place myself and familiarize myself with the situation of the magic crystal mine, so I can make some changes based on the situation. Evita thought highly of this Tibbers, which was why she brought him here for this inspection and patiently explained her intentions to him. Hearing Evita's explanation, although Tibbs still didn't agree, he still nodded honestly. Seeing that Tibbers didn't raise any objections, Evita smiled and quickened her steps to catch up with the group in front of her. Anjuin turned around to look at Evita and hesitated for a moment before slowing down his steps. When Evita came to his side, he asked, "This, Miss Evita, are you some dean of New Flyer?" "Yes, I'm the principal of the Academy of Magic." Evita nodded. Anjuin was surprised as he looked at Evita, in surprise with a look of disbelief. "You're actually the principal of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. I really never thought that such an important person would actually be such a young and beautiful little. A young and beautiful girl like you." Evita revealed a faint smile. "What? Anjuin, you don't believe me?" No. I believe you. There's no benefit in lying to me." Anjuin quickly waved his hand. After pausing, he asked in a hesitant voice, "This, young Miss Evita, since you are an important person of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, can I ask you something?" "Please speak." My second son is currently working for the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce, mainly in charge of operating the production magic machines. His mind is very flexible and his skills are very good, so he is very valued by the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce. But he always wanted to work for your New Flyer. Do you think that's possible?" The moment Anjuin opened his mouth, Evita already knew what he meant. Since the New Flyer became more and more famous, Evita had heard many similar words. They were all people secretly hoping that she could put someone into the New Flyer. Among them, her relatives from her hometown were the most direct. Knowing that Evita was the principal of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, her relatives from her hometown all came to her, hoping that she could help them or their family members get a job in the New Flyer. Evita couldn't resist the pressure from her relatives and parents at first, but she wasn't willing to ask Sue E for help, so she had been troubled by this matter for a long time. In the end, Sue E noticed her strangeness and took the initiative to ask her about this. Finally, he used his authority as the chairman to give her a few spots to give to her relatives. In the end, with Evita's help, 3 of her relatives passed the New Flyer's test and officially entered the New Flyer to work. Although she couldn't arrange for all of her relatives to enter the New Flyer, this result was still satisfactory to most people. Among her relatives from her hometown, as long as Evita was mentioned, all of them would give her a thumbs up and praise her, making her parents feel very proud. But because of this matter, Evita felt that she owed Sue E a lot, so much so that when she faced Sue E, her attitude couldn't help but change. Of course, she couldn't completely reject her relatives, but she could deal with people she wasn't close to. Hearing Anjuin's question, Evita smiled. "If your son's skills are good enough, then I think he has the qualifications to work for our New Flyer." Anjuin's face lit up. "Really? Then I'll go back and tell that kid to apply for a job at your New Flyer. In terms of procedure, I welcome him on behalf of the New Flyer." Evita paused and continued. "But Anjuin, although the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce isn't as good as our New Flyer in terms of treatment, I know that the salary they give isn't low. The most important thing is that they're only a small chamber of commerce, so your son has a lot of room for improvement there. I don't think it's worse than coming to our New Flyer." Anjuin chuckled and scratched his head. "Actually, he also knows this. But if he can work for your New Flyer, it'll be a lot more glorious. This kid isn't married yet, so if he can enter your New Flyer, I think a lot of girls will take a fancy to him." Hearing Anjuin's answer, Tibbs, Supervisor Dusa, and the other middle-aged man, as well as the 2 dwarves, couldn't help but laugh. Supervisor Dusa laughed loudly. "I say, Anjuin, although working for New Flyer is indeed a lot more glorious, Our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce isn't bad either. Go ask your second son if he's willing to come to our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Our Chamber of Commerce is recruiting a lot of people recently, so he should meet the requirements. Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce? Anjuin looked at Supervisor Dusa in shock and shook his head. That won't do. Your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce is always at the construction site, and when you work, you're covered in dust. Our village has 2 people laying roads for your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, and every time they come back, it's like they're buried in the ground, and they look as ugly as they can be. How can girls like them like this? This time, even Evita couldn't hold back her laughter as she laughed out loud. Supervisor Dusa had an awkward look and said with some annoyance, "Who said that our Chamber of Commerce's workers will be covered in dust? Look at me, do I look like that? Aren't you the supervisor? Of course you're different from the ordinary workers." Anjuin shook his head. Our normal workers never say that they're buried in the ground after work. Supervisor Dusa couldn't help raising his voice. Who are those 2 fellows from your village? When I go back, I'll have them clean themselves up after work, so as to not ruin the image of our Chamber of Commerce. Anjuin shook his head. Naturally, he wasn't willing to say anything. Supervisor Dusa gave a cold snort. Even if Anjuin didn't say anything, as one of the supervisors of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, naturally he could easily find out. When he was thinking about how to take care of those 2 fellows, Evita suddenly said, "Supervisor Dusa, I feel that you should pay attention to the problem that Anjuin mentioned. This isn't just related to the image of your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. It's also related to the health of the workers. I suggest that you provide the workers with proper bathing facilities at each construction site, making it easier for them to clean themselves up after they're done. For example, you can arrange several magic water heaters and the magic water pumps that our company developed recently. As long as you have a large water tank, it'll be enough to take care of the bathing problem of 100 people." Supervisor Dusa naturally attached importance to Evita's words. After thinking about it, he nodded. "All right, I'll give this suggestion to Chairman Cruz when I go back." After saying this, he suddenly reacted and said to Evita with a smile, "Young Miss Evita, are you promoting the magic water heaters and magic water pumps for your company?" Evita revealed a faint smile. "Isn't this suggestion very effective?" She turned to Anjuin after saying this. "Anjuin, if your son has to work at our new flyer, of course we'll welcome him. But I suggest that he should consider it later because our company is currently preparing for a worker skill level test. We'll test the workers of our company and assess their skill level before giving them a corresponding wage. I feel that it's best if he comes after this test." Before Anjuin could say anything, Supervisor Dusa asked in a surprised voice, "This idea isn't bad. Who came up with it?" Evita revealed a sweet smile. "Of course it's Sir Chairman. Other than him, who else could it be?" Chapter 417. Among the people who came with Evita, Tibbers was her assistant. Manager Dusa had been entrusted by the new flyer to represent the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to inspect the surrounding environment of the mine, preparing to solve the problem of transportation around the mine. The 2 dwarves had been sent by Sue E to inspect the magic crystal mine. As for the other middle-aged man, he was the representative sent by the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce. Because the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce had very mature experience in mining and had mined this magic crystal mine before, Sue E had invited Crick, who had worked in the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce for over 20 years through Chairman Morgan, to help with the inspection, as well as providing advice. The group of people followed Old Man Anjuin for around an hour and a half before finally arriving at the mine. On the surface, this mine still had some traces left by the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce. Even if Crick wasn't in charge of this mine before, he could see many things about this mine from the traces left behind. "It seems like our company gave up on this magic crystal mine because it was too hard to mine." Crick pointed at an abandoned mine as he spoke. "Look, the magic crystals here seem to be buried very deep. It's not easy to dig them out." The 2 dwarves looked at the mine and shook their heads, showing that this wasn't a problem at all. For the dwarves, this mine wasn't hard to mine at all. Then again, with the various mining magic machines developed by the new flyer, It was much easier to mine by hand. Crick was naturally aware of this, but he was just feeling emotional. Then he began inspecting the mine according to his duties. Different from the others who had to inspect the mine, Evita brought Tibers into the mine with the two dwarves. With the help of the dwarves, they quickly obtained a sample of the magic crystals in the mine. Magic crystal mines were different from iron ores. Iron ores were normally naturally formed iron, and ores that needed to be refined. But magic crystals were normally condensed from natural magic, so it would be a complete magic crystal when it was dug out. The only difference was the size and quality. The two dwarves used the small tools in their hands to easily dig out several magic crystals of different sizes. Evita took them to look over and found that these magic crystals were all above average quality. If all the magic crystals in this magic crystal mine had this quality, this magic crystal mine could be considered very good. After hinting to the two dwarves to keep digging for magic crystals in other parts of the mine, Evita and Tibers came out of the mine and found an empty space. Using the magic materials they had on them, they quickly set up a magic crystal refining array. Evita had already thoroughly researched this refining magic array. After putting the magic crystal in the magic array, the magic was drawn out and it condensed into a smaller square magic crystal. Of magic crystal. Of magic crystals. There was only a small team left in the center of the magic array. Evita picked up the condensed magic crystal to look over it. After using her magic to investigate it, she slightly knit her brows. "Director, what is it? This magic crystal's quality isn't good enough?" Tibers asked. Evita shook her head. "It seems like I was right to come this time. Different magic crystals have different characteristics, so the magic crystals in this magic crystal mine aren't that stable. Look, they've only been dug out for a short period of time, and their quality has clearly decreased. In the end, the refined magic crystal doesn't have the same level of magic." Tibers took the refined magic crystal from Evita's hand in a confused manner. After using his magic to investigate it for a while, he found that this refined magic crystal was indeed different from the magic crystal he refined with Evita in the laboratory. "Director, you really are too strong. You can even distinguish such a small difference." Tibers couldn't help saying in a voice filled with admiration. "This isn't much. I've been studying this too much recently, so I'm a bit sensitive." Evita casually replied. She picked up another unrefined magic crystal and used her magic to feel it. After thinking for a bit, she used magic materials to create a refining array. With the effect of this slightly modified magic array, after this magic crystal was refined, its magic parameters were finally the same as the refined magic crystals in the laboratory. Tibers was filled with admiration for Evita, expressing that she could make changes to the refined array in such a short period of time and create such a perfect result. Her talent was truly shocking. Evita didn't care at all as she shook her head and said, "When it comes to talent and understanding of magic arrays, I'm far from being able to compare to the chairman. If he was here, I think he would be able to think of a better way to solve this." Hearing Evita mention Sir Chairman again, Tibers slightly knit his brows. He was a bit unhappy that Evita kept mentioning Sir Chairman, but Tibers was very clear that compared to Sir Chairman, he was far from being able to compare in all aspects. He wasn't qualified to compare at all, so he could only remain silent. Evita didn't notice the change in Tibers' mood at all. She was completely focused on how to refine the magic crystals in this magic crystal mine into standard magic crystals. This was a very complicated job. Even if Evita had done a lot of research in this area before, she was still faced with various problems. After a while, the two dwarves brought Evita large amounts of magic crystals from different parts of the mine. Evita first examined the magic crystals from different places before experimenting with the excellent array, confirming her guesses from before. Although the magic crystals in this magic crystal mine were of high quality, perhaps it was because it had been mined before and wasn't properly protected, so the magic crystals in this mine were in an unstable state. It wasn't a problem to mine the magic crystals here, but if they wanted to refine them in a standardized way, there would be quite a few obstacles. Evita thought for a moment and decided on a plan to cover the entire mine with a magic array to prevent magic from leaking out. But thinking of how this plan required a large magic array, which wasn't cheap, Evita couldn't help knitting her brows. She had taken the initiative to ask Sue E to investigate this magic crystal mine on behalf of the Academy of Magic, hoping that she could use her own efforts to help the company reduce their losses. However, this plan would cost at least 20,000 gold coins, which directly increased the cost by quite a bit. After considering it, Evita found that there was no better way for now. She could only have Tibbers collect all the magic crystals and prepare to bring them back for research. At this time, Manager Dusa and the others had already finished their inspection of the mine. They left the mine under the lead of Old Man Anduin and returned to Prana Village. Evita declined Old Man Anduin's invitation, but before they left, Old Man Anduin couldn't help asking Evita about his son. Old Man Anduin, I've already told you before that our company will be conducting a skill grade test for all the workers in the company. Then, according to the chairman's idea, he plans to spread this test outside of Shinfei, applying it to all magic machine companies. So I suggest that your son patiently wait for a bit, waiting for this test to be spread before taking the test. If he can obtain a high-level skill grade test, I think that whether it is our new flyer or any other magic machine company, it will be easy for him to find a job. Evita honestly said. Old Man Anduin thought for a bit before nodding. All right, I'll tell that kid this. Let him quickly improve his skills. It's best if he can directly take the high-level test. Evita revealed a faint smile before saying goodbye to Old Man Anduin with everyone. With the medium-sized magic car Manager Dusa rented from the Mercado Taxi Chamber of Commerce, it took everyone an hour to arrive at the falling rain valley that was 30 kilometers away. When the group and CEO Kennard finished the report on the magic crystal mine, it was already noon. Kennard invited everyone to lunch on behalf of the new flyer, but Evita rejected him. She had Tibbers bring the magic crystal samples back to the Academy of Magic in the falling rain valley, and Evita focused on studying the samples. Seeing Evita focused on her research, Tibbers couldn't hide the admiration in his eyes. What he liked to see the most was Evita's serious appearance when she was researching. He always felt that Evita was the most beautiful when she was like this, and his heart was moved every time he saw it. However, when he thought of how Evita couldn't help revealing a smile when she mentioned Sir Chairman, Tibbers' heart filled with pain. Although Tibbers admitted that he couldn't compare to Sir Chairman and it was normal for Evita to be interested in Sir Chairman, but Sir Chairman was already married to the most beautiful girl he had ever seen in his life, young Miss Steele. Moreover, Sir Chairman and young Miss Steele had always been close, so Evita didn't have a chance at all. In this situation, Evita still wasn't willing to give up. Tibbers was very clear that the more gentle a girl like Evita was, the more determined her heart was. Once she decided on something, almost no one could change it. But Tibbers still wanted to give it a try. Chief, Tibbers saw Evita seriously studying that beautiful face that was filled with endless brilliance and finally gathered his courage to speak. Evita tilted her head. What is it? Towards Sir Chairman. Punk. Tibbers had just spoken when the door to the lab was suddenly pushed open, cutting off his words. Chapter 4:18. Hey, Evita, you're back from the mine? Akali quickly came over with an excited look. She looked at Tibbers on the side and made a face at him as she said, What? Tibbers, Evita caught you to do experiments with her again? Isn't this too tiring? It's clearly time to eat and you're still working. You didn't want to come to my group earlier. Are you regretting it now? Tibbers gave a bitter laugh. He had finally gathered the courage to tell Evita, but he had been cut off by Akali. If he had to speak to Evita again, it would be very hard for him to have this kind of courage again. I don't regret it. I like the director's research on magic crystal refinement. I feel that it has more future than magic resonance technology. Tibbers said in a secretive voice, You dare say that my research on magic resonance technology has no future? Akali immediately raised her voice. Let me tell you, This is a research that Sir Chairman personally told me has a lot of future. You dare look down on it? No, no, no. I don't have this meaning. I just prefer the director's research topic. Tibbers waved his hand. Humph. I think that you don't prefer this research topic. Rather, you prefer Evita, right? Akali looked at Tibbers as she spoke. Tibbers' face turned red, and when he wanted to argue, Evita raised her hand to stop him. All right, don't try to argue with Akali. It's no use. Evita revealed a smile. She looked out the window before saying to Tibbers, Akali is right. It's time for lunch right now. I can't keep you here to work. You should go eat. But these... Tibbers pointed at the large pile of magic crystals on the table. I don't need your help with these. Hearing the certainty in Evita's voice, Tibbers left the lab with a bit of disappointment. Seeing Tibbers close the door to the lab, Akali narrowed her eyes and asked Evita, what do you think of him? Not bad. He has talent in magic arrays. Moreover, his mind is clear and flexible, so he's very suited for this kind of research. Evita said, you know that's not what I'm asking. Akali rolled her eyes. She moved to Evita's side and grabbed her arm. She moved her round face over and giggled. What do you think of him as a person? Did she fall for him? I see that you've been doing experiments with him recently. Nonsense. Evita's face turned a bit red as she reprimanded Akali. I'm just treating him as an assistant. I don't have so many messy thoughts. It's easier to develop feelings with an assistant. Akali giggled and said, they're all young boys and girls. It's normal for something to happen after being together for a long time. What's there to be shy about? Besides, Tibbers is quite good-looking. I told you it's not like that. Evita snappily threw off Akali's hand on her arm and said with a serious look, I'm warning you. Don't speak nonsense about this kind of thing. If it affects my relationship with my assistant, I won't let you off. Akali stuck out her tongue and revealed a look of fear. Then she said with a smile, but the problem is that he clearly likes you. Don't tell me you don't know. Evita was stunned. He likes me? What kind of joke is this? Akali looked at Evita in surprise. After a while, she forcefully patted her forehead and said in a pained voice, I thought that you were the smartest and the most meticulous one among us. But now it seems like you're as slow as Sir Chairman. Think about it carefully. How does Tibbers normally treat you? If he doesn't like you, then I must be blind. Evita knit her brows and carefully thought about what Akali had just said. Then she thought about what Tibbers normally did and said to her. The more she thought about it, the more she found that what Akali said was the truth. I'm afraid it's not good. Evita felt a bit awkward. I don't have any feelings for him, so it'll be very awkward if I interact with him in the future. What is there to be awkward about? If you really don't like him, you can just find a chance to tell him. Anyway, no one is forcing you to like him. Akali said in an uncaring voice. Look, I like the chairman, but the chairman doesn't like me. Everyone knows this, but there's no awkwardness when interacting with him because this is a very normal thing. Evita looked at Akali with a bit of surprise. You're actually admitting it so openly now? Why do I feel that you shouldn't continue to like the chairman? So you're acting this calm. Humph, I've thought it through. If I like him, I like him. If I don't like him, I don't like him. Me liking the chairman is my own matter. It doesn't matter if he likes me or not. Akali looked at Evita with a deep gaze. Anyway, I'm not like a certain person who clearly likes him, but isn't willing to admit it. Isn't it uncomfortable? Evita's expression froze, and she was in a daze for a bit before slowly shaking her head. Let's not talk about this. You didn't come looking for me just to talk about this nonsense, right? Do you have something important to tell me? Akali looked at Evita for a bit before giving a sigh. She didn't continue this topic and said with a serious expression, there is something important. Evita, how standardized is the magic crystal you're researching right now? It's hard to say. Which aspect are you referring to? You should know that my group and I have been researching magic array resonance technology. We're planning on creating a family remote control system, right? Akali asked. Evita thought about it and remembered. It's what you said last time. You want to use a remote control box to control all the magic machines in the house, and you don't even need to personally turn them on? Right, it's this. Akali nodded. Right now, we're seeing some results with this research. Right now, we can use a small magic array to adjust it and we can use the magic array to separate different magic machines, allowing us to control them from a distance. But there's a very important problem right now. Is it the problem of the magic vibrations not being the same? Evita immediately asked. Akali giggled and reached out to pinch Evita's face. Our Evita is just that smart. That's right, it's this problem. If we want to control all the magic machines in the house through the same remote control system, we have to make the magic vibrations of the magic arrays in the magic machines be the same. But different magic arrays are different in this aspect. We can find a way to adjust the magic vibrations of the magic arrays, but we can't solve the problem of the magic crystals used in the magic arrays being affected. So, Evita, have you finished standardizing the magic crystals you researched? It's not a complete success yet, but it's close to success. Evita smiled. Evita said with a smile, "Did you forget? Kennard held a press conference a few days ago and proposed to standardize all aspects of the magic machines, preventing the magic machine market from being chaotic because of the standards." Oh, he even mentioned this? You should know that I'm too lazy to listen to these headache-inducing words, so I didn't notice. Akali thought about it before excitedly saying, "That means the research should be about to succeed? That's great. The more I study these things, the more I feel that Sir Chairman was right before. The more detailed something is, the more it needs to be standardized, otherwise it would be too inconvenient. The chairman has always had foresight. His words can't be wrong." Evita softly said. You really do like to. Seeing Evita's eyes slightly pop out, Akali tactfully swallowed the rest of her words. Since the magic crystals will be standardized soon, there won't be a problem with the unified remote control system that we're researching. Think about it, Evita. As long as you sit at home and use this operating system, you can just press a button or press a button, and the magic machine that is far away from you will automatically start. Don't you think that's amazing? Evita rolled her eyes at her. What use is there in saying this to me? These words that are like advertisements should be said to people who don't understand. Che, advertising is the business of the sales department. I don't care. Akali thought about it before suddenly changing the topic. Right, Evita, Steele has been pregnant for this long, and we've only seen her once. Shouldn't we find a time to visit her? We can also call Claire and the others along. Evita gave a slight nod. We should go see her again. We've been busy with research during this time, so we haven't met up with our old classmates in a long time. How about we wait for the research to finish and we set a time to go together, giving ourselves a day off? Good idea. I'll go tell Claire and the others. Akali gave Evita a thumbs up before heading out the door. When she was halfway there, she suddenly stopped and turned back to look at Evita. After hesitating a bit, she asked, "But Evita, if you go and see Steele pregnant with Sir Chairman's child, won't you feel? Cool, that's something?" Evita revealed a faint smile. "Even someone like you who clearly likes Sir Chairman doesn't care. Why should I care?" Akali gave Evita a nod before turning to leave. Watching Akali leave, Evita gave a sigh. She shook her head and threw away the random thoughts in her mind before returning to the table to continue her experiment. But when she was about to start, there was a knock on the door. Evita slightly knit her brows, thinking that she really couldn't continue her experiment today. Looking at the door, she saw Teresa's timid and petite figure standing outside the door. Chapter 419. What's the matter? Evita took the initiative to greet her. Teresa had been working at the Academy of Magic for almost 3 months now. In these 3 months, because of her cute and beautiful appearance and her polite and humble personality, she was loved by everyone in the Academy of Magic. Not to mention that almost all the male researchers in the Academy of Magic had a good impression of her. Even most of the female researchers treated her like a little sister and were very close to her. Evita was no exception, but compared to Teresa's appearance and personality, she admired Teresa's talent in magic research more. Teresa was younger than Steele and Evita, but her magic level was only slightly lower than theirs. She was also very talented in magic research. She had only been in the Academy of Magic for less than 3 months and had already made many outstanding contributions, making everyone see her in a new light. As the Dean of the Academy of Magic, Evita naturally liked and valued this kind of subordinate. After bringing Teresa into the room, Evita saw that she seemed to be in a difficult position, so she smiled and asked, "Just say what you want. There's nothing difficult about it." "Oh." Teresa raised her head to look at Evita and bit her lips. She seemed to have made up her mind and said, "Dean, can I go into the data room to take a look?" Evita paused. "Data room? What do you want to see in the data room?" "Dean, I've been researching a new type of magic lamp. I need to use magic array intermittent supply technology. I heard from my colleagues that our Academy of Magic already has this technology, but it's always been locked in the data room. But if I want to see it, I need your permission, so I came to ask you." "I see." Evita nodded. She thought for a bit and then shook her head. "I'm afraid I can't agree to this. According to our Academy of Magic's rules, only level 3 researchers or above have the right to enter the data room. You're only a junior researcher right now, so..." A trace of disappointment flashed across Teresa's small face. She lowered her head and sighed. "I thought I could finally make some contributions to the Chamber of Commerce and repay the president." Hearing this, Evita's expression changed. After a moment of silence, she smiled. "I only said that you can't enter the data room for now, but I didn't say that you can't look at the data. If you only need information on the intermittent supply of mana from magic arrays, I can show it to you and help you with your research. What do you think? Do you need it?" Teresa immediately raised her head and asked happily, "Really? Really?" Evita nodded with a smile. "That's great." Teresa was excited. "As long as I have the support of this technology, I will be able to develop a new type of magic lamp. I feel that this magic lamp will definitely be popular. The guild leader will definitely be very happy when he knows about it." Evita couldn't help but laugh when she saw how happy Teresa was because she had a chance to repay Sue-E. At the same time, she sighed with emotion. "President, just how many girls do you want to attract the attention of?" Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. If Sue-E knew what Evita was thinking, he would definitely cry out that he was being wronged. He never thought of attracting the attention of a girl and making the other side pay special attention to him. On the contrary, since he had been scared by those bold, noble ladies at the banquets, Sue-E had been very low-key in front of other girls, afraid of causing trouble. Since he married Steele, he had been even more low-key. It had been a long time since he attended any banquets in Banda City. As long as he was free at night, his first choice would be to accompany Steele. However, it was impossible for the matters of this world to be decided by his will. He wanted to avoid other girls to avoid trouble, but the trouble in his eyes would always take the initiative to find him. Among these troubles, Sophia had always been the biggest one in Sue-Yi's eyes. "Hey, Chairman Sue, I'm here to play with you again. How about it? Do you welcome me?" Seeing Sophia's smile, but there was a sly and proud look hidden in her eyes, Sue-Yi gave a bitter laugh in his heart. He revealed a warm smile on his face as he said with a nod, "Of course you're welcome. How could you not be welcome?" That's good." Sophia nodded in satisfaction. "Since you welcome me, I'll stay here a bit longer this time. If I'm satisfied with my inspection, perhaps I'll stay here in the future." "Ah, stay here?" Sue-Yi was stunned. "Why do you want to stay here? What do you want to do here?" "Of course I want to stay here to find work. What else can I do?" Sophia looked at Sue-Yi and gave a soft snort. "I can see that you were lying to me just now. You don't welcome me at all, and you don't want me to stay here, right?" Seeing Sophia pout her lips, Sue-Yi felt a headache coming on. He quickly waved his hand with a smile. No, of course not. I'm just a bit surprised. Why do you want to stay here to find work? If you want to work, you can easily find work at the Walmart Chamber of Commerce." "Humph. I'm tired of the Walmart Chamber of Commerce since I was young. What fun is there? Then again, I'm a magician. The Walmart Chamber of Commerce doesn't need me. Could it be that you want me to be a guard for the company?" A girl like you, of course you're not suited to being a guard. But Sophia, you don't need to come to our Banda City to find work, right?" Sue-Yi said with a bitter smile. "This place is far from Anvilmar City. It won't be convenient for you to go home in the future." "How is it inconvenient?" Sophia glared at Sue-Yi. Sophia glared at the First and Carriage Company. Didn't the First and Carriage Company say that with the magic cars produced by your new flyer, it only takes half a day to go from Banda City to Anvil Mars City? Well, the inconvenience I'm talking about includes your life here. Think about it. You grew up in Anvil Mars City, so you definitely won't be able to adapt to living in a small city like Banda City. So he kept persuading her. If my brother can adapt to it, why can't I? Sophia retorted, unconvinced. Sophia refuted. I've been here many times, so I'm already very familiar with this place. What is there to not adapt to? After saying this, she looked over and revealed a sweet smile to Sue-E. Then again, isn't there Chairman Sue here? Big Brother told me that you're a very influential person in Banda City right now. If I stay here, wouldn't an important person like you take care of a little girl like me? Seeing the proud smile on Sophia's face that was like a little fox, Sue-E revealed a bitter smile. He turned to look at Kennard, who was watching Sophia's performance on the side, and the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's Vice Chairman Hank Wilson, who came with Sophia this time. He asked, "The two of you aren't against this?" Kennard gave a bitter smile at the same time. He gave a shrug and helplessly said, "Sir Chairman, you should know what kind of personality my little sister has, right? I can't do anything to her." Hank Wilson clearly already knew about Sophia's decision, so he said with a faint smile, "Sir Count and the Madam support letting young Miss Sophia come out to see the world, so they have already agreed to young Miss Sophia's decision." Sue-E couldn't help rolling his eyes, seeing the world and increasing one's knowledge. You don't have to come to our Banda City, right? Your Walmart Chamber of Commerce has branches in every city of the kingdom. Why don't you go to a place that Sophia is more familiar with? Humph, I knew that you wouldn't welcome me. Hearing Sue-Yi's words, Sophia was immediately unhappy as she angrily said, "I don't care whether you welcome me or not. I've decided to stay here. Moreover, I want to work for your new flyer. Sue-E, you don't like me, so I'll stick to you." Sue-E rubbed his forehead and ignored Sophia, who had entered her pampered mode, as he looked at Hank Wilson. "Actually, young Miss Sophia is right. The reason why I chose this place is because young Master Kennard is here, and the other important reason is because Chairman Sue and the new flyer are here." "Is that so?" From Hank Wilson's response, Sue-E could tell that there was no room for him to refute this matter. After thinking about it, he looked at Sophia and said, "All right, since Sophia likes it, you can stay. But if you won't work for our new flyer, I'm afraid." "Why not?" Sophia immediately raised her voice. "I'm a level 3 mage. Why can't I work for your new flyer?" "I haven't said that you can't." Sue-E waved his hand. "What I meant was that our new flyer's regulations are very strict. If you want to work for our new flyer, there's no problem, but you'll have to go through the entry test like everyone else. If you can't pass, then I can't open the back door for you." "Humph, I knew you'd look down on me." Sophia raised her head slightly, her expression as arrogant as a little rooster's. "Let me tell you, I'll definitely pass the entry test. When I become an employee of our new flyer, I'll pester you every day and annoy you to death." Sue-E let out a "huh," thinking that it would be better if she really became an employee of New Flyer. Did she really think that the employees of New Flyer had nothing to do all the time? Not to mention the mages on the front lines who were working overtime every day due to the large orders in the factories. Even the researchers in the Academy of Magic were burying their heads in their labs due to the heavy workload of research and development. How would they have the time to bother him all the time? Chapter 420. Hank Wilson's trip to Banda City this time. Other than escorting Sophia here, there were two more important matters. The first was to discuss a new cooperation contract on behalf of the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. In the past year of cooperation, New Flyer's household magic machines had been selling very well in the various Walmart Chamber of Commerce branches in the kingdom. Just in terms of sales of magic furnaces, according to the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's statistics last month, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce branches in the various cities of the Lampari Kingdom had sold over 170,000 Shinfei brand magic furnaces. Although the Walmart Chamber of Commerce earned an average profit of less than 1 gold coin from each magic furnace, this was just the magic furnaces. if they included the other household magic machines of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. The Walmart Chamber of Commerce earned a large profit of close to 300,000 gold coins just from cooperating with the Frestec Chamber of Commerce last month. Because of this, before the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's contract ended, they decided to sign a new contract with the Frestec Chamber of Commerce a year ahead of time. As for Hank, when Wilson took out the new contract, he looked it over and found that the terms on it were much better compared to the first contract they signed. For example, in the first contract, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce said that New Flyer had to pay for all the transportation costs, and the Walmart Chamber of Commerce wouldn't take any responsibility. But in this contract, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce had taken the initiative to take care of the transportation costs within 300 kilometers. For anything beyond 300 kilometers, they would negotiate based on the situation. There was another rule, which was that the Walmart Chamber of Commerce promised that as long as there was a road, even if it was beyond 300 kilometers, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce would take care of the transportation. They didn't need New Flyer to find another transportation method. But after seeing this detail, he shook his head and pointed at this detail to Hank. Wilson said, "As for the transportation, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce is willing to take care of the transportation costs, and I represent New Flyer in expressing my gratitude. But as for the transportation method, because our company has an agreement with the First and Carriage Company, all the transportation of our company's goods will be taken care of by the First and Carriage Company. I'm afraid we can't give it to you." "Oh, there's such an agreement?" Wilson thought for a bit before asking, "Chairman Sue, did you reach this agreement with the First and Carriage Company because they bought a large number of magic cars from you?" "You could say that." He smiled and nodded. Actually, Wilson's reason was only one of the reasons. The real reason was that he wanted to use this cooperation to change the First and Carriage Company from horse carriages to magic cars, changing the transportation method of the Lampari Kingdom. Of course, the actual situation was that once the magic car was released, because it was much faster and safer than horse carriages, it was welcomed by everyone in a short period of time. In just a few months, not only had all the companies in Banna City adapted to this new transport method and appointed the First and Carriage Company to transport their goods, even the companies in the nearby and even further cities found the First and Carriage Company to transport their goods. Now, the First and Carriage Company had already set up branches in the surrounding cities, taking care of business. Of course, the reason why the First and Carriage Company developed this quickly was because the Frestec Chamber of Commerce only sold magic cars to the First and Carriage Company. During this time, there were countless companies that wanted to buy magic cars from the New Flyer, but they were all rejected by the New Flyer because they didn't have enough production capacity. And now, Hank? Wilson came on behalf of the Walmart Chamber of Commerce and made the same request. Other than discussing the new cooperation, the main reason I came this time is to buy magic cars. Wilson said to Sue with a serious look. Chairman Runs places great importance on the magic cars and asked me to come this time to buy them from you no matter what. Didn't directly reject him. Rather, he thought for a bit before asking, "You want to build your own transport fleet?" "Hank." Wilson revealed a faint smile. "It should be a logistics fleet, Chairman Sue." Hearing the word logistics from Wilson's mouth, immediately understood. It was clear that the Walmart Chamber of Commerce had done their research and made preparations for the magic cars. Wilson coming to Banna City this time meant that the Walmart Chamber of Commerce placed great importance on the matter of buying magic cars. "All right, it's a logistics fleet. Can I ask, how big are you planning on building a logistics fleet?" Sue asked. "If possible, the bigger the better," Wilson said with a smile. "But for now, our goal is to build 500 transport magic cars. As for passenger transport, our company isn't planning on meddling right now." "Oh, only 500? He was a bit surprised. He thought that since a large company like the Walmart Chamber of Commerce that could be considered one of the largest companies in the Lampari Kingdom, they wouldn't be worse than the First and Carriage Company, but he never thought that they would only ask for 500. It had to be known, the First and Carriage Company already had over 2,000 medium transport magic cars right now. At this time, at least half of them were on the roads of the Lampari Kingdom, so it could be said that they greatly increased the flow of goods in the Lampari Kingdom. Yes, the initial plan is to buy 500 medium transport magic cars. Hank Wilson nodded before explaining. Chairman Sue, actually we are very clear on your plans and attitude towards supporting the First and Carriage Company. Young Master Kennard has already told me about this before. But you don't need to worry. Our company isn't planning on competing with the First and Carriage Company for the transport business in the Lampari Kingdom. Not competing for the transport business in the kingdom? Then isn't 500 a bit too much? So he was a bit confused. After thinking about it, he suddenly had an idea and said in a surprised voice, "It can't be that you're aiming for other countries, right?" Wilson nodded with a faint smile. Chairman Sue really is quick-witted. You guessed it this easily. That's right. Our company wants to build a transport fleet, and our main goal is to transport goods to other countries, not to transport goods in the kingdom. Sue looked at the confident Wilson with a trace of pride in his eyes and his heart filled with emotions. The Walmart Chamber of Commerce really was one of the largest companies in the Lampari Kingdom. He was still racking his brains on how to expand the influence of a new flyer in the Lampari Kingdom, but the other side was already looking outside the Lampari Kingdom. If it's like this, I feel that 500 magic cars aren't enough. Sue said in a thoughtful voice. No matter which country it is to go to, the journey is much longer than in our Lampari Kingdom. If there are only 500, I'm afraid it can only barely keep a few transport routes open. So, this is the initial plan, Wilson said. Wilson said, according to the estimates of our company, 500 medium-sized transport magic cars can keep our company's routes to the Sac Kingdom, the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Rhine Kingdom, and the other two small duchies. As for the future, we will expand the transport fleet according to the situation. This is a very careful plan. I think it's very good. Sue said with a nod. Since Chairman Sue is very optimistic about this plan, shouldn't you give us some support? Wilson immediately climbed up the ladder. Wilson immediately followed up. The initial 500 magic cars, I think that Chairman Sue should be able to provide them to us, right? Sue shook his head with a bitter smile. Wilson had already said this, and if he didn't agree, he wouldn't be giving the Walmart Chamber of Commerce any face. It would have a serious impact on the cooperation between the two companies. Sue placed great importance on the Walmart Chamber of Commerce as a retail giant in the Lampari Kingdom. So Sue seriously considered it for a bit before slowly nodding. If it's only 500, I think we can squeeze out a portion. But, Vice Chairman Wilson, based on our agreement with the First and Carriage Company, I need to discuss this matter with them before I can give you a definite answer. I'm afraid I can't give you a definite answer right now. That's not a problem. Seeing Sue agree, Will's face was covered in a smile. But I hope that Chairman Sue can give me a clear answer as soon as possible. It's best if you can give me a clear answer before I leave so that I can bring it back for the company to discuss. That's not a problem. All right. Chairman Sue, please take a look at this new cooperation agreement. There are some suggestions for our Walmart Chamber of Commerce to expand our cooperation with your new flyer. You can consider them. Sue picked up the contract again and looked over it for a bit before being stunned. In the last part of the agreement, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce actually proposed to cooperate with New Flyer Abroad. In short, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce proposed to use the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's sales channels to sell the various magic machines produced by New Flyer to other countries and regions. Then as the market for these magic machines opened in other countries and regions, both sides could even invest in factories in these countries and regions, producing and selling locally. It had to be said, this was a very attractive plan and proposal. Although New Flyer already had the ability to sell the Shinfei brand magic machines to the Principality of Constantine and the Kingdom of Ruhr outside of the Lampari Kingdom. Ignoring the Principality of Constantine, New Flyer didn't have any foundation in the Kingdom of Ruhr. So Sue always controlled the pace of New Flyer's investment in the Kingdom of Ruhr, not moving fast. But the Walmart Chamber of Commerce was different. As one of the top chambers of commerce in the Lampari Kingdom, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce had a strong foundation in the surrounding countries and regions. If they cooperated with them and invested in these countries and regions, it would save a lot of trouble and it would be easier to open up the market. But this would bring about a problem. If they cooperated with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce would inevitably take the lead in the future because of their unequal foundation in these countries and regions. Sui cared a lot about this because whoever took the lead could decide the development path and direction. Sui's ideas in many aspects were completely different from traditional chambers of commerce because his goal was to develop the magic machine industry on this continent and create a complete industrial system. Most of the time, he didn't care about profits. On this point, he would definitely have a conflict with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. Looking at Wilson's expectant face, Sui fell into deep thought. Chapter 421. Kennard watched the carriage carrying Wilson disappear into the distance and turned to ask Sui, "Chairman, why didn't you agree to this agreement?" Sui smiled and asked back, "Are you asking this question from the standpoint of the successor of the Emma family, or from the standpoint of the CEO of New Flyer?" Kennard was slightly startled. After a moment of silence, he answered seriously, "No matter which standpoint I take, I feel that this agreement is very worth signing. From the perspective of the Emma family, the cooperation with New Flyer will not only allow the Walmart Chamber of Commerce to earn a lot of benefits, but it will also allow them to open up the foreign market with their new and easy-to-use magic machines. Of course, this is very beneficial." Then from the standpoint of the CEO of New Flyer, Sui asked, "From the perspective of the New Flyer, this agreement is also very beneficial to us. Our Chamber of Commerce will have to shift our target to foreign countries sooner or later. Rather than fumbling around on our own, it is better to cooperate with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. This will save us a lot of trouble and obstacles, which will be very helpful to the development of our Chamber of Commerce." Kennard answered, "I must say that your thinking is very correct, but I don't want our Chamber of Commerce's development to be controlled by others. Do you understand?" Sui said. Kennard looked at Sui in shock. He was surprised by his answer, but even more shocked that he would tell him this point so directly. In the end, he was still a member of the Emma family. Did he say this reason to make him understand? Or did he want the Walmart Chamber of Commerce to understand? However, Sui maintained a gentle smile on his face, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. Kennard couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The longer he worked in New Flyer and spent more time with Sui, the more he found that he couldn't understand Sui. But you don't have to be so worried. Although I didn't agree to sign this agreement, I didn't completely oppose it, right? Seeing the look on Kennard's face, Sui smiled. At the very least, I hope that we can continue to cooperate with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. For example, I appreciate the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's proposal to sell the various magic machines produced by our New Flyer to more countries and regions. Kennard thought about it and decided to give up on asking Sui's real thoughts. He said in a thoughtful voice, "But Chairman, you promised to sell 500 transport magic cars to the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. This might be a bit difficult. We haven't even finished the first and carriage company's order yet, and we've promised many companies that we would provide them with magic cars after we finish the first and carriage company's order. So how can we take out all these products?" Relax. When Camby and the others develop the automatic production magic machines, you'll find that our production efficiency will greatly increase. Only it won't be a problem to squeeze out 500 magic cars for the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. Even with the automatic production magic machines, I still feel that this is a large problem, Kennard said with a frown. Sui laughed. "This problem will be given to you as the CEO to worry about. This is your responsibility," Kennard said with a bitter smile. "Sir Chairman, you really know how to push this problem to me." Sui gave a cold snort. "Don't forget, I still need to take care of an even bigger problem, and this problem is even more related to you." Kennard could only give another bitter smile. "Sir Chairman, I hope that you can take care of Sophia while she's here." Sui gave a helpless sigh, thinking that he had to be a nanny. Hashtag, 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 the leaves of Banta City fell again, but it was already late autumn. It was different from last year's bleak situation. Because 70 was the city lord this year, Banta City's business environment had greatly improved and the entire city seemed to have regained its vitality. Although the autumn wind had already brought along a trace of coolness, the streets and alleys were still filled with bustling crowds, setting off the entire city to be extraordinarily lively. 70 looked at the bustling market and busy people through the window of the city lord's manor and couldn't help revealing a happy smile from the bottom of her heart. She said with a soft sigh, "How good would it be if our Lampari kingdom could become this prosperous? Be assured, Your Highness, I believe that your wish will become a reality." A middle-aged man respectfully standing behind 70 replied with a faint smile, "Is that so?" 70 turned around and looked at the middle-aged man before sitting back in her chair. She didn't have the middle-aged man sit down in front of her like she normally did with Su-E. Rather, she had a serious look as she said to the middle-aged man, "Nori, Royal Father sent you here to see how I'm managing Bana City. Now that you've seen it, what are your thoughts?" The middle-aged man called Nori lowered his head and respectfully replied, "Based on what I've seen, Banta City's prosperity is comparable to Anvilmar City. There are even many things that are more advanced than Anvilmar City's. For example, just in terms of the magic street lamps, Anvilmar City can't compare to them." 70 revealed a faint smile. "If you knew that it cost Banta City 200,000 gold coins to lay down the magic street lamps, perhaps you wouldn't praise it this much." Nori's lips curled into a smile as he said, "This proves that Banta City's finances are very good, so they can take out 200,000 gold coins to lay down the magic street lamps. Your Highness, for Banta City's finances to be this good, naturally it's related to your management. Thank you for your praise. But since I became the city lord, I haven't done much. The reason why Bana City's finances are so good is because of the large companies in the city. Let me tell you some data. According to last month's financial report, the large companies of Bana City have already paid over 500,000 gold coins in tax." Nori slightly raised a brow as he revealed a look of shock. 500,000 gold coins in a single month? Then in a single year, wouldn't it be at least 5 million gold coins? 70's smile had a trace of satisfaction, but she still shook her head and said, "It can't be considered like this. The tax isn't fixed. So the reason why we could collect this much tax last month was because many companies had large orders last month, so the tax they paid increased quite a bit." Nori nodded. After being silent for a bit, he suddenly asked, "Your Highness, can I ask, how much tax did New Flyer pay?" 70 already expected this as she said with a faint smile, "Less than 200,000 gold coins." "That isn't right? Nori knit his brows. "Based on the data I know, New Flyer has already paid over 200,000 gold coins in tax each month. Why is it that when the other companies have increased last month, it has decreased?" "Nori, it seems like Royal Father didn't tell you everything. Let me give you a hint. New Flyer is a company that has the right to freely trade with the Royal Parliament." Nori was surprised, but he instantly understood. "That means New Flyer's main business last month was with other countries?" "That's right." 70 nodded. "Actually, most of New Flyer's business in Bana City is declining because New Flyer is moving many factories out of Bana City, investing in other cities. New Flyer's largest transaction last month was the 3,000 production magic machines sold to the Kingdom of Ruhr. As for the other transactions, most of them were with other cities in the kingdom. According to the laws of the kingdom, our Banta City can only collect a small part of the tax from these transactions." Nori knit his brows. "Why are they moving? Could it be that New Flyer is planning on giving up on Bana City?" "Your Highness, forgive me for being direct, but the Frestech Chamber of Commerce is the most important company in Bana City and the most important source of income for Bana City. I suggest that you immediately restrict the actions of the Frestech Chamber of Commerce to prevent Bana City from losing this most important source of income." "Nori, your eyes are too shallow." 70 slowly shook her head. 70 slowly shook her head. "I don't oppose New Flyer's actions. Rather, I support it. Although New Flyer has brought large changes to Bana City, making this small city the most prosperous city in the kingdom. He is right. But Su-E is right. Changing a single city like Banta City is of limited help to the Lampuri Kingdom. Only by changing all the cities in the kingdom can the Lampuri Kingdom truly become stronger. This is what Chairman Su said himself. Nori said in a surprised voice. Of course. 70 gave a certain nod. 70 nodded. Su Yi's goals and ideals are definitely much bigger than you can imagine. So, don't use normal standards to measure him. Hearing 70's evaluation, Nori was very surprised. He looked at 70 in surprise for a while before saying with a nod, All right, I will tell this to His Majesty. I believe in your loyalty to Royal Father. 70 said with a nod. 70 nodded. Then Nori, can you tell me what my dear big brother's been doing in the past few months? The expression on Nori's face became a bit strange and awkward. After hesitating for a while, he replied with a bitter smile. When I left Lawrence City, His Highness was reorganizing the Lawrence City's Northern Army. Organizing the army? 70 deeply knit her brows. What does he want to do? Nori was silent for a while before saying with a sigh, His Highness said that he is a man, so naturally he wants to use a man's method to show his value. The place that can show a man's value the most is the battlefield. Hearing this response, 70's brows knit even deeper. Chapter 422. On the northern border of the Lampari Kingdom, the temperature dropped faster than other places. It hadn't been long since autumn began, but there was a clear chill in the morning air. Even Viscount Leslie, who always considered himself strong, had no choice but to tightly wrap his military uniform coat around his body and shrink back a bit. Feeling that the thin coat didn't give him much warmth, Viscount Leslie couldn't help knitting his brows. Didn't the army headquarters say that they wanted to raise the standard of our northern army? It's almost winter, and they still haven't given out the new coats. Moulay, his colleague from the logistics department of the Northern Battlefront Army, was walking beside him. He bitterly smiled and said, The military department says that every year, but you have been in Northern Battlefront Army for over 2 years. Have you ever seen it happen? That's not right, right? Compared to the military magic machine sent when we attacked the Muerto Mountains at the beginning of the year, how much is a trivial coat worth? Leslie was a bit confused. The bitter smile on Muller's face became even stronger. I say, Leslie, you've been in the logistics department for 2 years. How could you not know the situation of our Northern Army? Although the military magic machines are expensive, they didn't send much at once, so it's only several 100,000 gold coins. But if we want to improve the equipment of our Northern Army, it would cost too much. Not mentioning anything else, our Northern Army has around 30,000 people. So if each person has a new coat, it would cost at least 50,000 gold coins. Adding in all the other daily necessities, do you think the army headquarters will be able to afford it? 30,000 coats cost over 50,000 gold coins? Doesn't that mean each coat costs close to 2 gold coins? Leslie deeply knit his brows. I've been in charge of distributing supplies in the logistics department for 2 years, so I rarely asked about the price of these daily necessities. How could it be this expensive? Muller took a deep look at Leslie. Leslie, you're about to leave, so I'll boldly tell you today. To be honest, the coat you're wearing costs 1 gold coin and 80 silver coins, but the actual price is at most 90 silver coins. Leslie narrowed his eyes and didn't ask Muller where the 90 silver coins went. After all, he came from a large noble family like the Stag family, so his knowledge wasn't something normal people could compare to. Adding in the fact that he had been working in the Northern Army's logistics department for 2 years, now that Moulay had reminded him, how could he not guess what was going on? Thinking of how many soldiers he had seen the Northern Army in the past 2 years die in battle or become disabled from their injuries, Viscount Leslie couldn't help giving a cold laugh and not saying anything else. After the two of them walked in silence for a while, Muller felt that the atmosphere was too heavy, so he forced out a smile and said, Leslie, your transfer order should have come down, right? Leslie nodded. It was approved the day before yesterday. I could have left yesterday, but I wanted to stay for 2 more days, so I decided to leave tomorrow. Moulay looked at Leslie and thought for a bit before saying, You're being transferred back to the army headquarters this time. I think that with your family's power, you'll quickly rise in the army headquarters. Before you leave the Northern Army, let me tell you something from the bottom of my heart. If you have the chance, You should help us out as much as you can. The Northern Army has been suffering for all these years. Leslie slowly nodded with a serious expression. I will. Muller forcefully patted Leslie's shoulder. After hesitating a bit, he gave a long sigh and didn't say the rest of his words. Leslie shook his head and also patted Muller's shoulder. The two of them fell into silence again. After walking around, Muller's face finally returned to normal. He said to Leslie with a smile, Since you're leaving tomorrow, how about I find some colleagues to hold a farewell party for you tonight? That won't be necessary. Leslie shook his head. Didn't you already hold a farewell party 2 days ago when you received the news? If you do it again, you'll just be using this as an excuse to drink. Of course, if possible, I also want to drink with you, but it's a pity that I have other things to do today and will be leaving soon. Is that so? Muller looked at Leslie in a daze for a bit before suddenly reaching out to hug him. Then I wish you a smooth promotion in the future. Leslie hugged Muller and forcefully patted him on the back as he said in a deep voice, Take care. The two of them used strength at the same time before separating. Muller waved his hand and left. Seeing Muller leave without even looking back, Leslie thought that soldiers who had experienced blood and fire were different. They wouldn't hesitate at all. After turning his head to look to the north for a while, Leslie turned around and returned to his single room in the garrison. Butler Brunei had already led 2 servants to pack up Leslie's belongings. Seeing Leslie come back, he opened his mouth and said, Young master, let's go, right? His Highness has been waiting for a long time. Your Highness. Leslie's lips curled into a smile of disdain, but it quickly disappeared. He nodded to Butler Brunei. Let's go. The news of Leslie leaving the Northern Army didn't cause much of a reaction because in the past 2 years, other than Muller and a few other people in the Northern Army, no one knew that he came from the Stag family. He had been transferred to the Army headquarters, and there weren't many people who knew about this. For the over 30,000 people in the Northern Army, he was just an unremarkable person. Of course, other than him, there weren't many people in the Northern Army who could receive a banquet from His Highness Eric. Leslie followed Butler Brunei to a small city near the Muerto Mountains. He saw His Highness Eric, who had specially come here to inspect the Northern Army. As soon as they met, His Highness Eric immediately gave Leslie a large hug and said with a laugh, Ha! Ha! Leslie, after not seeing you for 2 years, you're much darker than before. If you go back to Ambilmar City like this, you won't be welcomed by the young ladies like before. Leslie rubbed his face with a smile. There's no other way. The border is very dry in the winter, so there's no way to maintain my skin. Then again, I'm a soldier. Isn't it bad if I'm too white? His Highness Eric broke out in laughter again. Ha! Ha! It seems like after being in the Northern Army for 2 years, you've changed quite a bit compared to before. Come, sit down, we'll talk while we eat. Although time was short, His Highness Eric had invited Leslie to a banquet, but it was still very sumptuous. In this small town near the border, he actually prepared a whole set of expensive silver tableware and even covered the table with a velvet blanket with exquisite patterns. Together with a dozen or so fragrant and exquisitely made dishes on the table, one could tell at a glance that the cost of this meal was definitely not cheap. Leslie looked over the table and silently calculated the cost of this meal that was only for him and His Highness Eric. Thinking of the military cotton coat he had just been wearing, he couldn't help slightly knitting his brows. His Highness Eric had been paying attention to Leslie's expression the entire time, so this small change naturally couldn't escape his eyes. He quickly asked, What is it? Leslie, you're not satisfied with these dishes? That's easy. I'll have someone take them down and make them again. But you'll have to wait a bit, so you'll have to be hungry for a bit. Leslie quickly wiped away the strange look on his face and waved his hand with a smile as he said, It's not that I'm not satisfied. It's just that I've always eaten rough food in the Northern Army and haven't eaten this kind of delicious food in a long time, so I'm afraid my stomach won't be able to take it. His Highness Eric laughed. It seems like you've had a hard time in the Northern Army these past 2 years. But that's fine. Once you return to Ambilmar City, I guarantee that you'll be able to adapt to your old life. Come, sit down. Today's meal will be a celebration for you finally breaking free from the hard days in the Army. Leslie silently sat down and looked at the incomparably rich dishes on the table. In the end, he couldn't help shaking his head as he said with a sigh, "I'm not the only one suffering in the Northern Army." The 30,000 soldiers of the Northern Army are all the same as me, and there are even some who have it worse than me. Of course, how could a soldier's life be good? When you decided to serve in the Northern Army 2 years ago, you should have been prepared, right? Seeing that His Highness Eric didn't care about the hidden meaning in his words, Leslie nodded and didn't continue this topic. He began to talk to him about some matters related to Anvilmar City. Halfway through the meal, Leslie suddenly casually asked, "That's right, Your Highness, I heard that you're planning to reorganize the Northern Army and attack the Sac Kingdom." "That's right." His Highness Eric put down his utensils and said with a serious look, "We've always had disputes with the Sac Kingdom over the years, but the Sac Kingdom has always taken the initiative. Now that we've finally taken control of the Muerto Mountains, we've taken the initiative. If we don't use this chance to attack the Sac Kingdom, it wouldn't make sense." "That's right. Leslie, why are you calling me Your Highness? Isn't this too much of an outsider? With our relationship, is there a need to do this? Just call me by my name like before." "It's different from before." Leslie shook his head with a faint smile. After thinking for a bit, he said, "Based on the situation, we do have the conditions to attack. But Your Highness, have you thought about how much it would cost to attack the Sac Kingdom?" "Cost?" His Highness Eric knit his brows. He looked at Leslie before revealing a gentle smile. "Of course it costs money to fight, but I think that with the full support of your stag family, this isn't a problem." Leslie looked at Butler Brunei, and Butler Brunei gave him a slight nod. "Since it's like this," Leslie nodded in understanding before raising his wine cup to His Highness Eric. "Then I wish the Northern Army a great success in their counterattack this time." His Highness Eric gave a laugh before raising his wine cup and clinking it with Leslie's before drinking it in a single gulp. Leslie tilted his head back and drank it, hiding the cold smile on his lips behind the wine glass. Chapter 423. It was different from the chill of the northern border. Banta City at the end of October only had a bit of a chill in the morning and evening. As long as it was sunny during the day, it would be warm most of the time. When it came to noon, it would even be a bit hot. In places with many people, this heat was even more obvious. There was a specially open area of less than 10,000 square meters outside the falling rain valley. There were several thousand people that came in today, and it was completely packed. The auras of countless people mixed together, making the temperature of this area much higher than other places. Adding in the anxiety in everyone's hearts, it made everyone feel even more hot. Mick was in the crowd, and other than occasionally looking up to see if there were any changes in the crowd, he spent most of his time reading the book in his hand and reciting it in a small voice. For an ordinary farmer like him who was born in Prana Village, he didn't even know how to read because he didn't go to school since he was a child. Although he had bought this book for more than half a month, and he had been looking for a knowledgeable person in the village to teach him, he still couldn't fully understand the meaning of the book. He could barely recognize most of the words, and he couldn't fully understand the meaning of the book at all. But this was something that couldn't be helped. Who told the new flyer to set a rule that the job skills exam had to be a test of theoretical knowledge? If one wanted to obtain a high-level job skill exam, they couldn't be careless in any aspect. Compared to the fact that he could rely on rote memorization to pass the test, Mick was more worried about how he could actually operate it. He had heard people say that in the new flyer's job skills exam, the examiners were the most skilled mechanical engineers in the new flyer. Compared to them, Mick felt that he couldn't compare to them in terms of technical skills. But the good thing was that when he worked for the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce, the magic lathe he used was the new magic lathe that new flyer released at the beginning of the year. It had the same specifications as the magic lathe that new flyer was currently using, as well as the magic lathe that would be used in the job skills exam, so he could be more familiar with it during the exam. According to the new flyer's Banta Times announcement at the beginning of the month, there were a total of 7 jobs in the vocational skill exam. Mick was confident in passing the high-level turning exam, so he felt that he could try passing the high-level milling exam. As for the other 5 jobs, he didn't count on them for the time being. While he was memorizing the data and things he needed to pay attention to, he was simulating the operation of the production magic machine again and again in his mind. Mick suddenly felt a stir in the crowd around him. He quickly looked up and saw that the door to the large house that should have been built last month was finally open. There was a young man wearing the standard blue uniform of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, jumping onto a high platform made of wooden boxes. "Everyone, don't push around, don't make any noise, let me finish." This young man seemed to have been specially selected. His voice was especially loud, and his shout actually suppressed the noise of thousands of people. Everyone looked at the young man and gradually calmed down. Seeing that the situation was under control, the young man nodded and continued, "Hello, everyone. I'm the manager of the New Flyer Household Magic Machine Department, Encanto. I represent the New Flyer to welcome everyone to participate in the vocational skill exam. In order to ensure that the exam goes smoothly, I hope that everyone can participate in the exam according to the rules." Following this, Encanto explained the rules of the exam that had been announced in the Shinfei Times before officially announcing the start of the exam. Mick glanced at the admission ticket he'd received last week and saw the number on it was 00372. He knew that he'd registered early. Based on the situation, if he hadn't listened to his father's advice and signed up early, he might not have been able to take the exam today. Since it wasn't his turn yet, Mick hurriedly reviewed the book on basic theoretical knowledge of professional skills. When he was about to review it a second time, he found that it was already his turn. Entering the giant test site with a bit of nervousness, Mick found that it was similar to the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce's workshop, but it was different from the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce's few production magic machines. There were all kinds of production magic machines here that dazzled Mick's eyes. "Hey kid, do you still want to take the exam?" A rough voice woke Mick up from the shock of seeing all kinds of new magic machines. Looking over, he found that the person in front of him was a dwarf who was only a bit taller than his waist, but his waist was thicker than his. Mick quickly respectfully handed over his exam ticket. The dwarf took it and had Mick follow him to a magic lathe, throwing him a square steel plate that was twice the size of his palm. "Come, turn it into a perfect circle." Mick took the steel plate and weighed it in his hand before asking back, "How much diameter do you want?" A look of praise flashed in the dwarf's eyes as he said with a nod, 20 centimeters. The error can't exceed 3 millimeters." Mick's heart instantly calmed down. Although the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce couldn't compare to the Ireland Chamber of Commerce, they still had a bit of fame among Banta City's component processing companies. Mick was the best at operating the magic windows in the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce, so naturally this wasn't hard for him. He took the measuring tool from the dwarf's hand, and after marking a suitable line on the steel plate, Mick took the steel plate and used the magic lathe to turn it into a perfect circle in less than 10 minutes. The dwarf took the processed steel plate and measured it carefully, finding that the deviation was less than a millimeter. He couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. He then grabbed the admission ticket Mikkel had given him and made a note of the distance in a small book beside him. Mick looked over, and with his good eyesight, he saw the number 85 on the book and was a bit unconvinced. "I processed it this well. How could it only be 85? It should be at least 90, right?" The dwarf looked at Mick and gave a cold snort. He turned around to pick up a steel plate that was also a perfect circle for him. "How does the one you processed compare to this?" Mick took the steel plate and it didn't need to measure it all. Just based on the smooth surface in his hand, he knew that the quality of this steel plate was much better than his. "How many points is this?" Mick asked in an unwilling voice. 90, the dwarf replied. "It can't be, right? This is only 90? Then what kind of thing can get 100? Mick said in a surprised voice. 100? Stop dreaming. Unless you can make a part that has 0 error, then you can only get 100. Can you do that?" The dwarf said with a laugh. Mick was instantly speechless. 0 error? That was clearly impossible. Then what meaning is there in setting the full score at 100? It's impossible at all. That's just a target. Are you serious? The dwarf waved his hand. All right, stop wasting words. Are you still taking the exam or not? If you don't, it'll be considered giving up. Exam? Of course I'm taking the exam. Mick quickly replied. The dwarf didn't say anything else as he threw a blueprint and another piece of steel plate to Mick. Mick naturally understood what this meant. After looking over the blueprint for a while, he used his tools to draw all the lines on the steel plate before starting to work on the production magic machine. This time, it took him a little longer. It took him more than 20 minutes to finish processing the steel plate, according to the instructions on the drawing. The dwarf took it and measured it. Nodding in satisfaction, he gave Mikkel a score of 80 in front of him. Although Mick was a bit depressed, he wasn't surprised. When processing this part, perhaps he was affected by his mood and made several mistakes. Being able to get a score of 80 was already considered quite good. All right, the practical test ends here. Go over there and take the theory test. The dwarf pointed at the door. Mick nodded and walked out of the test room. When he was prepared to head to a smaller room on the other side to take the theory test, he looked up to see a familiar figure. Hey, young Miss Evita. Mick quickly ran over and excitedly greeted Evita, who happened to be passing by. Evita turned around and saw Mick. She waved her hand at him with a faint smile before looking at the test room behind him and asking, "The practical test is over? What were the results?" Mick shook his head in a dejected manner. Not too good. I don't think I can become a high-level worker. Evita revealed a faint smile. You don't need to be discouraged. According to the standards set by Sir Chairman, no one is qualified to become a high-level worker right now. As long as you can pass the primary test and become an official worker, you'll be qualified to work for a new flyer. This Mick was Old Man Anduin's second son. Last time, when Evita went to Prana Village to inspect the magic crystal mine, Old Man Anduin had mentioned him to Evita. Evita had suggested for his son to take the new flyer's vocational test, and Old Man Anduin had agreed, immediately having Mick sign up. After that, Evita went to Prana Village several times and met Mick a few times, so they could be considered acquaintances. Hearing what Evita said, Mick couldn't help being surprised. This is what your Sir Chairman said? His requirements are this high? The chairman's requirements have always been high, Evita said with a smile, but this is also a good thing. It can help us keep improving. What do you think? Mick nodded like he didn't really understand. Seeing his appearance, Evita shook her head and pointed at the theory test room in the distance. Go. Today's test schedule is very tight. Don't waste any time. Then I'll be going. Young Miss Evita, when the results are out, I'll tell you the news. Mick waved his hand and turned to run to the theory test room. Seeing his energetic back, Evita revealed a faint smile. She looked at the crowd for a bit before turning to the road outside the falling rain valley. She got into the First and Carriage Company's magic car that was preparing to head to Banda City. Chapter 424. The public transport magic car stopped outside Banda City, and Evita got out, seeing the beautiful two-story buildings built by the sandy river in the distance, as well as the elegant and clean environment that was designed by the elven designers hired by the Amra Chamber of Commerce. Her heart couldn't help skipping a beat. It would be great if she could buy a house here to live in for a long time. But thinking that the lowest price for a house here was 5,000 gold coins, Evita immediately gave up on this idea. After identifying the road, Evita headed to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's new high-class magic residential district built by the Sandy River. Although this district wasn't finished yet, looking around, there were quite a few people who had already moved in. There were several people who even took the initiative to greet Evita when they saw her. Evita recognized some of these people. They were the families of the high-level members of the new flyer companies outside the Falling Rain Valley. There were also some that she didn't recognize, but thinking about it, it was because of a new flyer that they recognized Evita. After Evita greeted them, she asked for directions to her destination. Under the guidance of these two people who had lived here for a while, Evita easily found a house near the Sandy River that was considered one of the best in the area. Then she saw Akali and her two assistants who had already arrived. "Hey, Evita, come and look." When she saw Evita, Akali immediately waved her hand at her with an excited look. Evita walked over and stood beside a large window in the living room, looking in the direction she was pointing at. "How is it? Isn't it beautiful? Akali revealed a happy smile, looking like she was intoxicated. Think about it. If you live here, you can wake up to the sun every morning and see the beautiful sandy river as soon as you open your eyes. When you're free, you can even go paddling in the river with a small boat. This is simply great. Evita looked at the small building facing the sandy river that had become several times more beautiful after being renovated. After being silent for a bit, she suddenly reached out to knock Akali's head and reprimanded. All right, stop daydreaming. How is your work coming along? If it's over, let's go around town and pick out the presents. Otherwise, we won't have time to visit Steel. Akali rubbed her head and mumbled. So what if I'm dreaming? Besides, it might not be a complete dream. But even though she said this, when she heard Evita mention business, Akali's attention came back from the beautiful scenery outside the window. She looked at the busy assistants in the room and said, based on the inspection this morning, there shouldn't be a problem. Conservatively speaking, give me a week and I'll be able to set up the family central remote control system in this room. A week? Evita thought about it and shook her head. I'm afraid Miss Sophia won't be able to wait. There's nothing we can do, even if we can't wait. Akali shrugged. Sue, he shook his head. This system has very precise requirements, and it needs to be customized according to the household magic machine she buys. So how could it be done that quickly? This shouldn't be a problem, right? I think that since young Miss Sophia wants to live here after buying this house, the household magic machines she will use will all be the Frestek brand household magic machines produced by our company. You just need to tell her that she will choose the newest household magic machines from our company, and it will be standardized. It will be much easier for you to set up the central system. It's like this, but what if Miss Sophia wants to buy household magic machines from other companies? Akali refuted. The other companies don't have that many household magic machines, so it shouldn't be hard to change, right? Evita suddenly knit her brows. After thinking for a bit, she continued, speaking of this, the chairman seemed to have mentioned before that he would be opening up the production technology for household magic machines to other companies. He should be pushing out the standards we set at the same time, right? Of course we have to use the standard, otherwise it'll be inconvenient no matter what we do in the future. Akali said in a natural voice. That isn't certain. There will always be some companies that think they are infallible. Evita shook her head. She thought of a Banta City company that wanted to produce magic fans before, but they kept having problems with their technology. Then they used various connections to find her and asked her for advice. However, when she went to take a look, she found that perhaps this company wanted to pursue novelty when producing magic fans, so they forcefully changed the parameters of the magic fans. It made the magic fans that were made in the end seem inconvenient. So naturally, it was easy for problems to occur. Other than studying the magic airship, Evita was mainly studying the standardization of the magic crystal's magic output, so she was very sensitive to standards. She immediately reprimanded the so-called technical staff of that company without any politeness before correcting the parameters of the magic fan they made, bringing it into the standard of the Frestek brand magic fan. Then I don't care. Anyway, taking the modification that Miss Sophia requested will be a chance for our group to practice our current research. As for how to do it, naturally it will depend on Miss Sophia's request. Akali said. Evita nodded and didn't say anything else, as she focused on watching Akali and her assistant's work. This so-called Family Central Remote Control System was actually using the magic array resonance technology that Akali had researched. It could affect other magic arrays from a distance and affect the magic arrays in the various household magic machines to control them. In the Banta City's new city square, Akali had used this technology to control all the magic lamps in the new city square. After further research, Akali could use the same magic array to create different frequencies to affect different magic arrays. She could use this magic remote control system to control different kinds of magic machines. Because there are more and more household magic machines in the homes of Banta City, once this system was developed, there would be a lot of space for it to be used. But this was something that Akali had experimented with in the homes of real citizens. If it wasn't for Miss Sophia's strong request, she wouldn't have been willing to use it since this technology wasn't mature to her yet. Evita waited for a bit, and the three assistants that Akali had brought finished placing the corresponding magic arrays in the various locations. Then Akali took out the remote control box that she had already prepared and began to operate the magic arrays in batches. Facts proved that when these magic arrays were placed in the house, there was a difference from placing them in the lab. Although the remote control box could still affect each magic array, the effects would be a bit weaker. How is it? Will it work? Seeing that the reactions of the magic arrays weren't normal, Evita asked in a worried voice. It seems like there are some problems. Akali knit her brows as she made some small changes to the magic arrays in the remote control box in her hand before continuing to test them. But it isn't that big of a problem. We just need to make some changes based on the situation. Based on the current situation, the biggest problem is that there is a difference in the magic arrays of our Frestec brand household magic machines. I think that I should report this problem to the chairman. He also places importance on unifying standards. If he agrees, I think that when the Academy of Magic conducts magic array research in the future, they need to unify the standards first. Evita said, Sir Chairman should agree. But first we have to solve the problem of Miss Sophia's room. Akali thought about it before saying, How about this, Evita? We'll pick out the ones with the closest frequencies from the household magic machine department for Miss Sophia. As for the other problems, we'll study them when we return to the research facility. Satisfying Miss Sophia's needs is the priority. Evita nodded, agreeing to Akali's suggestion. After the initial test, there was only some simple data collection left. Akali looked at the sky outside the window and said a few words to the three assistants before leaving the small building with Evita, heading back to Banda City. Before they left, there was a horse carriage with the badge of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce that slowly drove over and stopped not far in front of the two of them. Chairman Cruz, who they had met many times, jumped out of the horse carriage and greeted the two of them with a smile. Chief Evita, young Miss Akali, what do you think of the high-class residential area built by our company? Doesn't it match the concept of your company's modern magic houses? Akali snorted and gave a soft snort. It's very good, but it's too expensive. Chairman Cruz laughed. This is a high-class residential area. If it isn't expensive, how could it be high-class? Young Miss Akali, since you think it's too expensive, do you also want to buy one? I do want to. Akali snappily glared at Chairman Cruz. But your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce has set the lowest price for these houses at 5,000 gold coins. How could I afford it? Can't afford it? Not necessarily. Chairman Cruz narrowed his eyes, looking like an old fox trying to entice a hen. Young Miss Akali, I recently received an idea from your Chairman Sue, which is to pay in installments. How about it? Are you interested? Installments? Akali and Evita were both surprised. Chapter 425. Payment in Installments? Steele rubbed her belly that was clearly bulging. After thinking about it, she nodded. Yes, this is indeed the idea that Sue E. gave to Chairman Cruz. What? Are you interested? Akali looked at Evita and nodded. I think this idea isn't bad. Look, if we divide it into 10 years, then we only need to pay 500 gold coins each year. Me and Evita's income is around 800 to 1,000 gold coins each year. We can definitely afford it. That's true. Steele turned to Evita. What do you think? Evita slightly knit her brows as if she was in a difficult position. Although our income is enough to pay 500 gold coins each year, but we can't be sure that we'll have such a high income each year. If there's a problem in the future and we can't pay, according to the agreement, this house will be taken back by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce won't refund us the money. Why are you so worried? Akali snorted. Are you worried that we'll lose our jobs? Or are you worried that New Flyer will close down? Evita helplessly looked at Akali. This fellow, she actually dared to say that New Flyer would close down in front of Steele. It was a slip of the tongue. Steele didn't care as she smiled. I think you don't need to worry about this problem. Every time I ask Sue E about your work in the company, He always praises you. I don't think he'll fire you unless you quit your jobs. As for New Flyer closing down, although I'm not sure, I'm confident that not only will New Flyer not close down, it will become stronger and stronger. Look, Steele said it. Why don't we make a decision? Akali quickly urged Evita. Think about it. As long as we buy that house, we can live in such a beautiful environment and live happily every day. Evita still shook her head. You forgot an important problem. We work in the falling rain valley every day, and that place is 60 kilometers away from Bana City. Could it be that we'll have to take the bus for 2 hours each day? There's even less to worry about. Aren't we developing small magic cars for personal use? When the time comes, we'll each buy one and drive it back each day. It'll be quite cool. Akali said in an excited voice. Steele looked at the hesitant Evita and said after some hesitation, how about this? Evita, if you and Akali are worried about paying the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce in installments, I'll lend you the money first. In the future, you can slowly pay me back, just like paying in installments. But you should be at ease with me, right? Really? Akali excitedly jumped up and grabbed Steele. She pressed her cheek against Steele's and happily said, That's great. Steele, it's settled then. I wanted to live in that house since I saw it. I simply wanted to die. Steele revealed a faint smile and pinched Akali's face before looking at Evita again. Evita, what about you? We are old classmates and friends. You don't need to be polite with me. Evita took a deep look at Steele before looking over her stomach. She looked around before looking at Steele and slowly shaking her head. No need. I'm not as interested in this house as Akali. Why? It's fine to borrow some money from Steele, right? It's not like we can't pay it back. Then again, when Akali was halfway through her words, Steele covered her mouth. Since Evita isn't willing, then it's fine. But I believe that with Evita's abilities, you might be able to earn 5,000 gold coins in a year. At that time, you won't need to consider paying in installments, right? Evita laughed softly. I hope it's like this. But that will depend on whether Sir Chairman will be generous or not. Oh, well, have I not been generous? Su Yi's voice suddenly sounded from the door. The three of them turned their heads and saw Su Yi walking in with Bella, Claire, and Cecilia behind him. Hey, Steele, your stomach has grown quite a bit. Bella rushed to Steele as soon as she came in, staring at her stomach as she praised loudly. Claire and Cecilia also squeezed over and put down the gifts in their hands. They surrounded Steele and pointed at her stomach as they discussed. This directly pushed aside the topic that Steele and the others were discussing. Seeing the women huddled together and chattering, Su Yi shook his head and ordered Liz and Linda to prepare lunch. Today, Evita and Steele's old classmates had made an appointment to visit her, so he had to properly entertain them. Just as he walked out of the living room, footsteps sounded behind him. He turned around and saw Akira and Evita chasing after him. What? Is something the matter? Seeing Akali's rare, nervous expression, Su Yi asked with a smile. This is not a big matter. Sir Chairman, just now Steele said. Hearing Akali talk about what she discussed with Steele, Su Yi laughed. He waved his hand and said, I thought that it was something important, but still it's not that important. Since Steele has already agreed, then I won't have any objections. Not to mention that you and Steele are good friends. Just based on our relationship, it's normal to lend you some money. Akali immediately happily rushed over and hugged Su Yi's arm as she shook it. I knew that Sir Chairman is the most generous. AI, if only I met you earlier than Steele, I would definitely chase after you. That way, I wouldn't have to worry about buying a house. Right? Sir Chairman, how about I use my body to pay back this debt? He shook his head with a smile. All right, don't joke about this. Steele is still inside. She looked at Evita after saying this and wanted to say a few words of advice, but after thinking about it, she gave up on that idea. Everyone's personality was different. Akali could easily accept borrowing money, but Evita wasn't. This couldn't be forced. However, after thinking about it, Su Yi suddenly thought of a problem and asked Evita, Right, Evita, I haven't asked about the company's recruitment in a long time. How many researchers does our Academy of Magic have right now? Evita was stunned by Su Yi's sudden change in topic and thought for a bit before replying. Right now, we have a total of 359. What's wrong? Su Yi shook his head. The growth isn't fast. Last year we had over 300, and this year we only have 359. It's too little. It's not little, right? Akali said in a stunned voice. Sir Chairman, even great magician Eisenkel has less than 200 magicians under him. Our company has over 300. It's already very scary. I still feel that it's too little. Don't you feel that we don't have enough people for research? Akali and Evita thought about it before nodding at the same time. Indeed, I've been wanting to get a few more assistants, but everyone in the research facility has their own research, and we're too busy, Akali said. Evita said with a sigh, right, the Academy of Magic's research is very heavy right now. I have a bunch of research projects from the Magic Machine Development Center, but I can't find enough people to research them. If there were another 200, it would be much better if there were another 100 researchers. Then why do you think the other magicians aren't willing to work for our new flyer? Su Yi asked. Evita and Akali looked at each other before replying. It's not that they aren't willing. After all, our new flyer is very famous now, and many of our classmates have asked us about the company. I feel that many magicians aren't willing to come because they don't want to work in a foreign city and are worried that they won't be able to adapt to life here. Look, this is a very important reason, Su Yi said with a clap. You two have already worked for our new flyer for over 2 years, and now you're thinking about living in Banda City. It's no wonder the other magicians are worried that they won't be able to adapt to life here. I feel that if we can solve the problem of living here and let the magicians who work for our company have no worries, there will be many magicians willing to come. Evita and Akali looked at Su Yi with strange looks, thinking that this Sir Chairman's thoughts really jumped around. He was clearly talking about the two of them wanting to buy a house. How could he think of this? Su Yi ignored the strange expressions on their faces. After lowering his head to think for a bit, he suddenly walked out with large steps. After taking 2 steps, he seemed to have thought of something and turned to say to the two of them, That's right, help me tell Steele that I'm in a rush to see grandfather, so I might not be able to make it back for lunch. I hope that you'll be happy here. After saying this, he waved his hand at the two of them and turned to leave. The two of them watched in a daze as Su Yi got into the horse carriage outside the manor and disappeared into the distance, only reacting after a while. Really, Sir Chairman, we came to see Steele today, and he ran away as her husband. What does this count for? Akali couldn't help muttering. He should have thought of something important, otherwise he wouldn't have done this. Evita explained for Su Yi. Akali looked at Evita and reached out to pinch her cheek as she teased. What? You're quite protective of him, but it's a pity that you're such a coward. You don't even dare say what you think, so it's no use protecting him. Evita rolled her eyes at her. That's still better than you saying that you want to use your body to repay your debt, right? What do you think you are? Can't you be a bit more serious? Akali gave an uncaring snort. I'm happy, you don't need to care. Evita helplessly shook her head and pulled Akali into the room. Chapter 426. When Su Yi saw Great Magician Camilla, he couldn't help bursting out in laughter. Great Magician Camilla was currently wearing the standard sky blue linen clothes of New Flyer. He was holding 2 steel plates in his left hand and a magic welding torch in his right hand. He was currently focused on the gap between the 2 steel plates, slowly moving the magic welding torch. If he had a protective mask on his face, he would be the same as a welder on Earth. Seeing that Great Magician Camilla was completely focused on the steel plates and the magic welding torch, Su Yi didn't disturb him. He just stood at the door and carefully watched his movements. Compared to when he had just developed the magic welding torch, the current Great Magician Camilla was without a doubt much more skilled at welding the 2 steel plates. Although the magic welding torch in his right hand wasn't moving very quickly, it was very stable, and the magic welding torch didn't tremble at all. Just based on this, it was enough to compare him to the experienced welders on Earth. When Great Magician Camilla finished welding the 2 steel plates, Su Yi took 2 steps forward to take a look. He found that there were no traces of welding at all between the 2 steel plates. It was like the two steel plates were naturally joined together and were a single piece. He couldn't help being amazed. He picked up the welded steel plate and pinched the two ends. He forcefully pulled with both hands, but the steel plate didn't move at all. Great Magician Camilla saw Su Yi's actions and laughed. "Brat, do you think I'm still the same as before?" He shook his head. He learned from the first time Great Magician Camilla finished welding the two sides. He placed the two ends of the steel plates on the table and left a gap in the middle. Then he picked up the other steel plate on the ground and raised it high before slamming it down. Kong! A deep sound rang out in the lab. The steel plate bounced off the table and fell to the ground, but it didn't move at all. He picked up the steel plate from the ground and seriously looked at the gap between the two steel plates. He found that there were no signs of it moving, and he couldn't help giving a sigh of surprise. "This is too strong. Grandfather, just how did you do it?" Great Magician Camilla laughed and said in a very proud voice, "Actually, I just made a small change to the welding method. I've heard you talk about using a welding rod to fill the gap and using a melted electrode to connect the steel plates, so I was always thinking about how to fill the welding rod. But then I thought about it. Since you want to use a melted electrode to solidify it, why don't you just melt the two steel plates and fuse them together? Isn't that much better than using a welding rod?" He was stunned. Melting the steel plates themselves? That can't be done, right? The reason why the welding rod can melt is because the welding rod itself is relatively thin and some accelerant is added. After saying this, Sutes Zhang's she suddenly remembered that when Great Magician Camilla was experimenting with welding, he didn't use any welding rods at all. This was because Great Magician Camilla had developed an Earth-attributed magic that Su-Yi called the Transformers Array. It could directly melt the metal and didn't require any other methods. Since it was like this, Great Magician Camilla's idea was undoubtedly correct. Since it could easily melt steel, why would he need to use a welding rod for welding? Compared to this kind of welding method that couldn't be considered reliable, of course it was much more stable to let the two steel plates melt together. He looked at the steel plate in his hand that seemed like a complete piece, and his heart filled with emotions. He had been deeply influenced by the ideas of Earth, always using Earth's methods to consider problems. But in reality, because of the existence of magic on the signs, there were some things that couldn't be done easily on Earth that could be easily solved by magic. For example, the magic array that Great Magician Camilla had developed that didn't require high temperatures to melt the metal. Compared to the high-temperature smelting method on Earth, it was much easier and easier to use. Let me show you a new welding method that I've developed. Great Magician Camilla suddenly picked up two steel plates, and his finger softly tapped the sides of the two steel plates. He could roughly see that he had placed several very small magic arrays on the two steel plates. But because the magic arrays were too small, he couldn't see them clearly. After a while, Great Magician Camilla stopped and raised the two steel plates for Su-Yi to see. Then he placed the two sides of the magic array together. Su-Yi felt a magic fluctuation coming from the steel plates, and then Great Magician Camilla let go of one hand. He saw that the two steel plates were connected together like they had been welded together. How was this welded together? Su-Yi took the steel plate from Great Magician Camilla's hand in a confused manner and carefully looked at the joint between the two steel plates. Although the joint between the two steel plates was not like the two steel plates that Great Magician Camilla had welded together without any gaps, the joint was very tight and the degree of connection was very high. Even if Su-Yi did a strong impact test again, there were no traces of cracks. It's very simple. I just set up several miniature smelting arrays on the sides of these two steel plates. Next, I just need to connect the two sides and channel mana to activate the magic arrays. The sides of the steel plates will melt, and naturally, the two steel plates will be welded together. Su-Yi simulated the welding of the two steel plates in his mind and understood. This welding method was without a doubt weaker than the previous welding method, but the good thing was that the surface of the steel plates could be kept clean. There is no need to do post-processing like the previous welding method, which was without a doubt much easier. Moreover, this welding method had a special effect. For example, if there were many places that needed to be welded with a magic welding torch, it would be very difficult to weld because of the space and angle. However, if one used this welding method and placed a magic array on the sides of the steel plates, one would only need to touch the steel plates and weld them together. There was no difficulty at all. Moreover, because this method could prepare ahead of time by placing a magic array in an emergency situation, one could quickly finish the welding and satisfy some special requirements. Sui instantly thought of a situation where he needed to use this new welding method and couldn't help giving great magician Camilla a thumbs up. Grandfather, you really are a great magician. You can actually think of such a useful method. After saying this, Sui gave a sigh. AI, how good would it be if there were a few more great magicians like you researching magic machines? Great magician Camilla rolled his eyes. Do you think that great magicians are cabbages sold on the side of the street? That they can be found so easily? Sui laughed. Of course it isn't that easy to become a great magician, but shouldn't be that hard for a higher-level magician, right? Great magician Camilla looked at Sui and gave a cold snort. Brat, what kind of idea do you have now? To be honest, I knew that you wouldn't come looking for me for a good thing. Sui immediately complained. Who said it wasn't a good thing? Could it be that me coming here to give you a raise isn't a good thing? A raise? Great magician Camilla was instantly stunned. What are you giving me a raise for? My salary is already over 3,000 gold coins a year. What do I need a raise for? Then again, I have a magic materials the company provides for me, so I don't need that much money. If you think you have too much money, you might as well give the Academy of Magic a bit more funding. Increasing the funding for the Academy of Magic has already been considered, but giving you a raise is a must. Otherwise, how can we use this to attract other magicians to work for our new flyer? Sui said with a laugh. Great magician Camilla knit his brows to think about it, understanding Sui's meaning. You mean, you want to give me a raise and use me as an advertisement? That's right. Sui nodded. Look, you're the only great magician in our new flyer. You are the brand of our company. If anything happens to you, it will definitely attract the attention of other magicians, don't you think? Of course that's right, but... Great magician Camilla looked at Sui and said in a doubtful voice, How are you planning to use me this time? Are you just giving me a raise? I don't think this will have any effect. My salary is already high enough, so it shouldn't have much of an effect if it's increased. Hey, it doesn't have much of an effect because it's too little. If you want to create a stir, of course you can't be too stingy. Great magician Camilla knit his brows. How much are you planning on giving me? 5,000 gold coins a year? Isn't that too much? Sui shook his head with a smile and stretched out a finger. No, 5,000 gold coins isn't much. So how can it create the stir I want? This time, I'm planning on giving you a raise of 10,000 gold coins a year. 10,000 gold coins? Great magician Camilla's eyes popped out in shock. Sui, are you crazy? You're giving me a salary of 10,000 gold coins a year? Do you think that the money of Shinfei merchants is free? If you want a good return, of course you need a good investment. Sui gave a shrug and said in an uncaring voice, Although 10,000 gold coins isn't considered little, I feel that if it's used to measure the value of a great magician like you, it is too little. To me, just your value alone is far more than a trivial 10,000 gold coins. Not to mention that I have another goal in giving you this kind of salary. To move the hearts of other great magicians? Great magician Camilla asked back. Sui nodded with a faint smile. That's right. Chapter 427. After knowing Sui's true goal, great magician Camilla didn't continue opposing. As a great magician, of course he had the pride of a great magician. Although great magician Camilla was shocked when he first heard of 10,000 gold coins a year. But thinking about it, being able to make the new flyer give him such a high salary, didn't it show his value as a great magician? It showed the difference between him and other magicians. So great magician Camilla didn't argue and agreed after thinking about it. In the end, the chairman of the new flyer was Sui, who was his granddaughter-in-law. They were family, so great magician Camilla wasn't embarrassed about it. "Grandfather, do you think an annual salary of 10,000 gold coins is enough to attract other great magicians? If it's not enough, I can add a bit more. As long as we can attract one or more great magicians to work for our new flyer, I feel that it's worth investing in this." He said, I feel that 10,000 gold coins is enough." Great magician Camilla thought for a bit before suddenly giving a sigh. "To be honest with you, although magicians are respected by others, and a great magician like me has a very high status, but having a high status isn't related to having money or living a good life. You also know that my magic tower only received 2,000 gold coins a year before. Other than that, I didn't have any other income. That's because you're too conservative. If you were like great magician Eisenkel, learning to use your magic early on to maintain relationships with the large companies and large nobles of the kingdom, I think that you would already be earning over 10,000 gold coins a year." He said with a smile. Great magician Camilla gave a cold snort. "I don't want to be the dog of those fellows. This Eisenkel, he has simply fallen into a pile of gold coins." He gave an awkward smile and reminded, "Grandfather, don't forget, you're also working for our new flyer." "How can that be the same?" Great magician Camilla glared at him. "The things I research are all good things that can improve people's lives. Now that the people of Banna City can live good lives, the magic machines developed by our new flyer have contributed the most. Compared to Eisenkel collecting protection fees as a hired thug for those merchants and nobles, I'm countless times better." He was a bit helpless and found it a bit funny. He thought that although great magician Camilla was very stubborn before, after working at the Academy of Magic, his ideas had changed quite quickly. Now he was actually proud of his work. Of course, this was a good thing. He couldn't wait for all the mages in the kingdom to change their mindset so that he wouldn't have to rack his brains to recruit more outstanding mages. He was tactful and did not linger on this issue. Instead, he smiled and nodded. "All right, Grandpa. Since you've agreed, then it's settled. As for the advertising," great magician Camilla waved his hand. "It's up to you. I have no objections." "All right," he replied. Seeing that it was still early outside the lab, he continued, "Grandpa, how about you stop your research and come to the Falling Star Manor with me? We should be able to make it in time for lunch. Evita and the others are Steele's old classmates, so they're staying at the manor for lunch. With a group of little girls there, why would I go? Kid, why aren't you going back? It's not convenient for Steele right now. Do you want her to entertain the guests alone?" Great magician Camilla glared at Then I'll go back now." He had only taken 2 steps when great magician Camilla suddenly called out to him. "Right, kid, it's almost time for this year's magician certification exam. Are you not going to participate today?" Great magician Camilla asked. "No, I'm taking a trip to Anvilmar City. There are many things I need to take care of. It's also good to participate in a magician certification exam." He replied. Hearing this response, great magician Camilla's eyes lit up. "That means, kid, you think your magic level has increased?" He laughed, but he didn't reply. He just gave great magician Camilla a reassuring gesture before leaving the lab. Hashtag. The new flyer's vocational exam lasted for an entire week before it ended. After several days of intense statistics, the first batch of people who passed the exam was finally released. According to the statistics, a total of 3,914 skilled workers passed the vocational skills assessment. Among them, the most were the lathe workers, with 1,739 people. The second most were the milling workers, with 716 people. The other 5 types of workers had a total of 1,459 people. The reason for this situation was mainly because, other than the new flyer, the other magic machine companies only produced a single type of product. There were very few jobs they needed, so many workers didn't have many vocational skills to begin with. Moreover, among these companies, most of them were small component companies, so naturally this most basic and common job had the most people passing. Although there were a total of 3,914 people who passed, Compared to the 20,000 people who signed up for the exam in a single week, the passing rate was without a doubt very low. So after Mick took the primary lathe and primary miller certificates from the receptionist of the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's Vocational Skill Assessment Center, his hands couldn't help trembling in excitement. According to what he knew, there weren't many people who could pass the vocational exam this time. As for someone like him who could pass both exams at the same time, it was even rarer. Looking at the two certificates in his hand, Mick took a deep breath. After calming himself down, he asked the receptionist, "Do I have the qualifications to work for your new flyer now?" The receptionist revealed a sweet smile. "Mister, I think that with your skill level, you should be able to pass our company's exam. However, I suggest that you first discuss this with the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce to avoid any disputes." Oh, that's right. Mick stared blankly for a moment before immediately reacting. He was still an official employee of the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce. If he wanted to come work for the new flyer without even saying anything, let alone the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce, even a new flyer wouldn't accept him. "All right, then I'll go back first." Thinking of this, Mick waved his hand to the receptionist, turned around, and ran out of the vocational exam center like a wisp of smoke. He then ran out of the falling rain valley without stopping, arriving at the small factory that the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce had built outside the falling rain valley. Mick took advantage of the lunch break to run to the vocational exam center to retrieve his certificates. At this time, there weren't many people in the workshop, so Mick directly went to the office to find the chairman of the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce, Enzoli Rimmet, looking over some documents. Upon seeing Mikkel, Chairman Rimmet instantly revealed an extremely brilliant smile. His gaze swept over the two certificates in Michael's hands, and he laughed heartily. "Congratulations, Mikkel." Mick was stunned. "Congratulations for what?" "Of course, it's to congratulate you for passing 2 vocational skill certifications at the same time." Chairman Rimmet laughed loudly as he patted Mick's shoulder. "Our Rimmet Chamber of Commerce has a few people who pass the certifications, but there's only one person like you who passed 2 at the same time. Good kid, I really didn't misjudge you." Mick scratched his head and said somewhat embarrassedly, "Chairman, thank you for your praise, but I came to find you this time." "I know." Chairman Rimmet laughed loudly as he interrupted Mick's words. "Actually, I don't need you to say it. I already know. You've performed so well, if I don't give you a raise, then it really wouldn't be justifiable. I've decided, starting next month, your monthly salary will be increased from the previous 15 gold coins to 25 gold coins. Directly increasing your salary by 10 gold coins? How is it? Are you satisfied? In addition, I'll also promote you to the position of the technical team leader of our Chamber of Commerce. You'll be responsible for the technical issues of the Chamber of Commerce. Do you have the confidence to do well?" Mick felt dizzy from President Rimmet's words. This time, he had come to ask Chairman Rimmet to resign and then go to New Flyer to ask for a job. But he hadn't thought that Chairman Rimmet would raise his salary as soon as he opened his mouth and increase it by a full 10 gold coins. 25 gold coins a month. Even in New Flyer, there weren't many workers who could earn that much, right? Moreover, Chairman Rimmet had said that he would promote him to some technical team leader. What was this thing for? Although Mick didn't really understand, just hearing the name made him feel that it was very impressive. Seeing Mick's stunned expression, Chairman Rimmet patted Mick's shoulder again and said with a serious expression, "Mick, you're the worker I value the most, and I've always thought highly of you. Now, I'm giving you the position of technical team leader in order to train you. As long as you do well, when our Rimmet Chamber of Commerce develops in the future, I guarantee that you won't be treated unfairly. At that time, let alone 25 gold coins a month, even if it was twice as much, wouldn't be a problem." Mick's eyes lit up. Twice as much? Then wouldn't he be able to earn 50 gold coins a month? Seeing Mick's expression, Chairman Rimmet knew that he had finally convinced Mick. He smiled and patted his shoulder again, saying, "All right, you go rest first. Tomorrow, I'll find you to sign a new employment contract and write down the matter of increasing your salary." Mick gave a dazed "oh" sound and left the office, not knowing what to do. Seeing Mick disappear out the door, Chairman Rimmet let out a long sigh. He picked up a document on the table and glanced over it, a trace of gratitude flashing through his eyes. Chairman Sue really is a kind person. If he hadn't specifically sent someone to remind us, I'm afraid that our Rimmet Chamber of Commerce's most important workers would have been poached away. At that time, the Chamber of Commerce would have collapsed. There were a few names written on the document, but it clearly stated that there were a few workers in the Rimmet Chamber of Commerce who had passed the skills test. At the top of the list was Mick, and there was a comment after his name. This worker's basic skills are excellent, and he also has a certain foundation in theoretical knowledge. With proper training, he will become an important technical core of your Chamber of Commerce. Please treat him well. That brat Mick wanted to jump ship to New Flyer a long time ago. Fortunately, I reacted quickly and blocked his mouth in advance. Otherwise, if he really did run away, we wouldn't be able to recover our losses. Chairman Rimmet smiled proudly and picked up another document from the table that was also signed by New Flyer and frowned slightly. Only these skills, which one should I choose? Chapter 428. It was the end of October in Anvil Mars City. The sky was dark and there was a chill in the air. However, the streets of Anvil Mars City were still filled with people and it was very lively. Because today was the day of the monthly large-scale auction, the Nazinli Auction House, which was located in the center of the most bustling street in the city, was more lively than usual. As soon as the sky darkened, countless people squeezed into the auction house, making the large space of the Nazinli Auction House extremely crowded. Like usual, among these people, one could easily find the large nobles and merchants of Anvil Mars City. For them, this was a place to display their pride and also an important place to socialize. As long as they had the qualifications to come, they definitely wouldn't miss this opportunity. Almost every month's large auction would become an important topic of conversation for a while in Anvil Mars City. And in these discussions, the most important thing was which large noble or merchant had spent a large amount of money, spending a shocking amount of money to buy something extremely precious. For example, in last month's large auction, there was a painting that was passed down from the Elven dynasty 3,000 years ago that was sold for a sky-high price of 370,000 gold coins, creating a stir in Banda City. However, the person who bought the painting refused to divulge his information. As a result, a month later, there were still countless people discussing in private who was so generous that he could throw out a huge sum of 370,000 gold coins to buy a painting. As for this month's large-scale auction, everyone's attention was naturally focused on the rare and precious items that would appear in the auction and how high their prices would be. For example, could it surpass last month's record of 370,000 gold coins? Sue squeezed into the auction house and found the seat that Hannes had reserved 10 days ago. Hearing the people around him discussing this, he couldn't help revealing a faint smile. 370,000 gold coins wasn't considered a large amount for the current him, but if he had that much money, he would rather invest it in magic machines. He wasn't willing to spend a single gold coin on a luxury item that didn't have any practical meaning to him. Moreover, after he came to Anvil Mars City this time, he didn't come to this auction to buy luxury items. Rather, he had another goal. After patiently waiting for a while, when it was 7 in the evening, an auctioneer came up from behind, and the noisy crowd immediately stopped. He couldn't help nodding. Based on this Nessun auction house really was the largest auction house in Anvil Mars City and even the entire Lampari Kingdom. The auctioneer gave a short and passionate introduction to this large auction before quickly entering the main topic of the auction. He completely ignored the strange things in front of him and just silently listened to the people around him calling out bids. He watched the atmosphere of the auctioneer's hype. The first item was sold for 500 gold coins, and when it came to the 10th item, the final price was over 10,000 gold coins. Seeing the lively scene of people bidding, he couldn't help feeling emotional. Based on this situation, there really were quite a few rich people in the Lampari Kingdom. But the strange thing was that the financial situation of the Lampari Kingdom had always been bad. Even if there was a large increase compared to the previous years, it still didn't surpass 3 million gold coins. It was even a bit higher than the annual profit of a company like New Flyer. He was very confused by this situation. He had asked 70 about this before, but he didn't receive a clear answer. As the items were sold one by one, the prices gradually increased, and the atmosphere of the auction house became more and more heated. Every person participating in the auction was very excited and seemed like they had lost their minds. However, when the auctioneer took out the 17th item, the scene suddenly became cold. A book of Archmagus Thorn's notes. The starting price is 3,000 gold coins, and the minimum bid is 200 gold coins. Everyone, please begin bidding. As soon as the auctioneer's voice fell, the crowd fell silent. Everyone looked at each other, and most of them were confused. Although everyone knew what the word Archmagus meant, Archmagus Thorn's notes didn't have any meaning to most normal people. If it was a famous Grand Magus on the continent, then with the high popularity of a Grand Magus on the continent, anything related to him could be sold for a sky-high price. For example, at last year's auction, there was a quill pen used by Great Magus Lifer that was sold for a shocking 130,000 gold coins. But an Archmagus wasn't a Grand Magus. There was only a difference of a single grade, but it was a world of difference. This was because on the signs, there were always Archmagi, and there were quite a few of them. For example, there were 27 Archmagi on the continent right now. But it was very hard for a Grand Magus to appear. Since humans started learning magic, it had already been 4,000 years, and there were only a few Grand Magi that appeared in human history. On average, there wouldn't be a single one appearing every several hundred years. Compared to that, a Grand Magus was naturally rarer and had a higher position in people's hearts. He patiently waited for a bit. Seeing that no one was increasing the price, he saw that the auctioneer was about to raise his hammer and announce that no one was bidding. Only then did he raise his hand and shout, 3,000 gold coins. Hearing this voice, the auctioneer let out a sigh of relief. He immediately lowered his hammer and pointed in Su Yi's direction as he loudly said, "Number 39, this Mr. 3,000 gold coins. Is there anyone else who wants to increase the price?" Everyone in the auction house turned to look at Su Yi. Su Yi wasn't wearing a magic robe today, so no one could see his identity as a magician. They couldn't help feeling a bit confused. Why did this young fellow want to buy Archmagus Thorn's notes? Could it be that he wanted to use the notes to increase his level of magic? Looking at his young appearance, even if he saw it, he might not be able to understand it, right? Su Yi ignored everyone's gazes and stared at the auctioneer, using his eyes to pressure him. The auctioneer naturally understood Su Yi's meaning. After waiting for a bit and seeing that no one was increasing the price, he nodded and continued, "Number 39, 3,000 gold coins going once. Is there anyone else who wants to increase the price? If not, Archmagus Thorn's notes will go to this mister." There was still no response. The auctioneer waited for a bit and could only helplessly shout again, "Number 39, 3,000 gold coins going twice. There's only one last chance left. Is there anyone who is interested in magic or Archmagus Thorn that is willing to increase the price?" Archmagus Thorn is the first Archmagus in the history of our Lampari Kingdom. He is the symbol of glory for our Lampari Kingdom's magicians. His notes must have a great value. I think no one wants to miss it, right? Perhaps it was the auctioneer's words that had an effect, but a voice came from below the stage. 3,500 gold coins. The auctioneer's spirit suddenly rose as he pointed in that direction and loudly said, "Good. Someone is increasing the price. This Mr. Number 47, 3,500 gold coins. Is there anyone else who wants to increase the price?" When he asked this question, the auctioneer naturally looked in Su Yi's direction. Su Yi didn't disappoint him as he shouted without blinking, "For 1,000 gold coins." A burst of discussion came from the crowd. From Su Yi's attitude, it was clear that he had made up his mind to bid. The other bidder, number 47, seemed to have felt Su Yi's attitude and was somewhat unconvinced as he immediately shouted, 5,000 gold coins. Seeing this situation, everyone in the auction house became excited. For the people participating in the auction, What they liked the most was to see people bidding. This was because this was the only way to show the excitement and nervousness of the auction. Everyone looked at Sue E with expectant gazes. Sue E pondered for a bit before saying, 5,200 gold coins. TCH. Hearing this price, everyone was a bit disappointed. Just now it was 500 gold coins per increment, and now it was the lowest bid of 200 gold coins per increment. Didn't this mean that this young guy was only strong in appearance? Perhaps he had already spent all of his pitiful savings to buy this notebook. Number 47 was clearly stunned by Su Yi's sudden decrease in price. After a while, he shouted a bid of 5,500 gold coins. Su Yi hesitated even longer this time. When the auctioneer was about to shout a third time, he shouted a bid of 5,700 gold coins. Number 47 shook his head as if he was very disappointed with Su Yi's performance and gave up on bidding. Thus, Su Yi finally bought Archmage Thorn's notebook at the price of 5,700 gold coins. This kind of auction process naturally disappointed everyone and was quickly thrown to the back of their minds as they continued to bid for the following items. Su Yi remained silent as he watched the performance of the people in the auction house. He quietly waited for the next item to appear. After about half an hour, the staff of the Nessun auction house carefully walked up with a red palm-sized box. Seeing the staff being so careful, everyone's curiosity was immediately piqued. So many precious items had appeared before, and the staff had never been so careful. Why did they have such an attitude towards this item? There was only one explanation, and that was that the item in this small box was far more precious than all the previous items. Thinking of this, everyone's breathing became hurried. Everyone was very clear that the finale of this large-scale auction was about to appear. Every time a finale item appeared, it would always lead to a bloody storm. Chapter 429. I think that everyone is very curious about what is inside this box, right? The auctioneer pointed at the box and looked around before speaking with a faint smile. No need to rush. I'll introduce it to everyone. The auctioneer gently pinched the two corners of the box and opened it. Everyone looked over and saw that there was a necklace inside the box. This necklace was completely green, and it was unknown what material it was made of. Under the illumination of the magic lights in the auction house, it reflected a faint blue glow. The glow seemed to have a life of its own as it flowed around the necklace, making it look very mysterious. Now, I'm honored to introduce it to everyone. This necklace is called the Deep Blue Sea. It is said to be made from the most precious blue coral found in the depths of the sea. Just the material of this necklace has a shocking value. The most important thing is that the one who made this necklace is the legendary Great Magus Lifer. Hearing the last sentence, there was an uproar from the crowd. This necklace was personally made by Great Magus Lifer. Even if this necklace wasn't made of any precious material, it would still be worth 1,000 gold coins. It had to be known that in last year's auction, the quill pen used by Great Magus Lifer was sold for a sky-high price of 130,000 gold coins. The auctioneer seemed to think that everyone wasn't shocked enough as he pointed at the necklace and continued. Other than this necklace also has a very practical use. That is that Great Magus Lifer personally placed a water magic array on this necklace. Although no one has been able to activate the magic array on this necklace, according to rumors, the water magic array on this necklace is a forbidden spell array. The crowd went into an uproar. Forbidden spell array? If the magic array on this necklace was a forbidden spell array, didn't that mean that as long as one could activate the magic array on this necklace, they would be able to release a forbidden spell? Of course, since no one had been able to activate the magic array on this necklace before, it meant that activating it was very difficult. A normal person wouldn't be able to do it even if they had it. However, this didn't stop everyone from going crazy over this necklace. So what if they couldn't activate it? Letting everyone know that they were wearing a necklace with a forbidden spell array was enough. All right, stop wasting words. Tell us the starting price. There were already people under the stage who couldn't hold back. That's right. Let's get started. We can't wait any longer. The auctioneer smiled and nodded. All right, let the auction begin. The Forbidden Spell Array necklace, personally made by Great Magus Lifer. The starting price is 100,000 gold coins, 5,000 gold coins per bid. Hearing this price, the audience below the stage sucked in a cold breath. Got above, just the starting price alone was 100,000 gold coins, and each additional bid was 5,000 gold coins. This was too outrageous. Just hearing the starting price scared off half of the people, but Anvil City didn't lack rich people. Moreover, those who came to participate in this large-scale auction were all wealthy. Thus, after the hall was silent for a while, a group of people began to crazily raise the price. In less than 10 minutes, the bidding price had soared from 100,000 gold coins to over 200,000 gold coins. After this price, the number of people participating in the auction finally decreased by a lot. Only 3 people were left. At this moment, Sue-E stood up. Seeing Sue-E suddenly stand up, the people sitting around him were stunned. What did this fellow want to do? When he was bidding for Archmagus Thorn's notes, he only spent 5,700 gold coins, and he looked like he was about to die. Now he actually wanted to bid on this necklace? He must have gone crazy. Facing the shocked gazes of the crowd, Sue-E stood up and raised the sign in his hand. He said in a clear voice, 250,000 gold coins. Once this voice came out, everyone was shocked. Before Sue-E called out the price, the person who had just bid 210,000 gold coins had called out the price. The other 2 were hesitating, but no one would have thought that Sue-E would jump out at this time and raise the price to 250,000 gold coins. Everyone looked at Sue-E in shock. When they saw that he was the person who had bid for Archmagus Thorn's notes, the shock on their faces became even stronger. This fellow, was he really that rich? Bidder number 7, who had called out 210,000 gold coins, saw the light of victory when he saw his 2 competitors hesitating. Now that Sue-E had suddenly appeared, he was stunned for a bit before his heart filled with anger. He pointed at Sue-E and said, "Hey, who are you? I've never seen you in Anvil City, so you must be a foreigner, right? Country bumpkin, you have 250,000 gold coins?" Sue-E faintly smiled, naturally disdaining to argue with him. Seeing Sue-Ye's appearance, bidder number 7 became even more angry. He turned to the auctioneer on stage and shouted, "What is wrong with your Nessun auction house? You actually let this kind of troublemaker in?" The auctioneer awkwardly looked at Sue-E before slightly bowing to bidder number 7. "Master Filito, you should know the rules of our auction house. The people that can enter the auction house have all been certified. Just based on him? Tell me, how did he pass your certification? I don't believe that he could take out that much gold coins." Bidder number 7 was still unconvinced. The auctioneer awkwardly said this. "This is the privacy of the guests. Please forgive me for not being able to provide it." Bullshit. Did this guy from outside really have that much money? Hearing Sue-Ye's bid, Filito's facial muscles twitched, and he hesitated for a moment. In a few days, it would be his grandmother's 80th birthday. He originally wanted to buy this necklace for her as a gift to please her. Although his father was the patriarch of the family, Filito knew very well that it was his grandmother who controlled the entire family. Pleasing his grandmother would be very helpful for his father to continue holding the position of patriarch. It would also be very helpful for him to inherit the position in the future, so he was very willing to spend money. And he was sure that even though his father was very dissatisfied with his extravagant spending at other times, he would definitely support him this time. That was why he was willing to call out a sky-high price of 200,000 gold coins in one go. One had to know that even for someone like him who was born in a pile of gold coins, 200,000 gold coins wasn't a small amount. But now, this outsider actually raised the price to 300,000 gold coins. Even Filito had to seriously consider it. However, seeing the faint smile on Sue-Ye's face, Filito couldn't hold it in anymore. He didn't want to think at all. He only felt the blood rush to his head. He turned to the auctioneer and shouted, 320,000 gold coins. 350,000 gold coins. Without waiting for the auctioneer and the others to react, Sue E instantly called out another bid. Everyone's eyes widened. 350,000 gold coins? Wasn't that only 20,000 gold coins away from the auction record of 370,000 gold coins set last month? Everyone looked at Felito, their eyes full of anticipation. As long as Felito raised the price again, then it was very likely that the record would be broken. Felito's cheeks puffed up. After hesitating for a while, he suddenly became discouraged and sat back down. Sigh. There was a long sigh of disappointment in the auction house. Felito's posture clearly indicated that he had admitted defeat. Everyone couldn't help but turn a look at Sue Yi. From the indifferent expression on Sue Yi's face, if Felito didn't admit defeat and continue to raise the price, then this guy would definitely raise the price again. But because Felito gave up, everyone missed the opportunity to see the auction record being broken with their own eyes. But when they looked at Sue E again, there was a strong sense of curiosity in everyone's hearts. This guy was completely unknown in Anvilmar City. It was obvious that he came from somewhere else. Why was he so rich? Who was he? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.